Crank it up, boss.
Snapping frames, chasing light, shadows dance, day to night, lens sharp, soul in sight, the camera whispers, hold it tight, click, click, moments freeze, time
So
captured in the breeze, the camera light, the flash ignites, frame the world, see it right, the camera light, you're the light.
I told you.
I know. We played that just for you, Paul, just to keep that earworm digging into your ear. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Camera Life podcast. It is the 16th of October, 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, episode 124. Now, for the keen-eyed and eared amongst you, I did call one of our previous BFOP, impromptu early morning podcast, episode 124. That was a fake 124. This is the real 124. And of course, today we are joined. Hey.
We can't count. That's the problem.
We can't. No, it was a very messy weekend. But today we are joined by award-winning landscape photographer, Ben Mays. G'day, mate. How are you?
Hey, mate. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no. Well, look, to be fair, we'll get to this in a moment, but to be fair, Lisa Leach had a lot to do with you showing up today. So we'll talk about that in a few moments. Just before g'day, Justin. You're obviously here.
Hi. No, I just wanted I am here. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to know, do you prefer Benjamin or Ben? Or does it not matter?
Ben's fine. Yeah.
Ben's fine?
Okay. And Greg's fine for me too. But just before we celebrate Lisa, because we spent a lot of time with her on the weekend and she is a bloody champion. But we'll get to that in a minute. Ben, can you just give us a 60-second version? Who you are, what you do, what you're known for?
Yeah. I'm Ben Mays. I'm based in Sydney. I am a landscape photographer, and I also do a bit of other like property photography and stuff during the week to balance that stuff out as well.
Nice.
But yeah, so I love unique landscape photography, everything from the grand scenes through to the intimate sort of abstract details. So I'm often carrying everything from my 14 to 400 mil with me on most hikes that I'm going on, which is pretty brutal, but I love the flexibility. And I'm really passionate about, the wilderness sort of areas. So I don't think you'll find any photos in my portfolio where you can see human elements. I'm really going for, the landscape that is untouched by man and, showing the, the beauty of the untouched landscape preserved and as it is. And I'm also really passionate about helping people sort of finding their connections with nature as well in their photography. So, running workshops and mentoring programs and online tuition and all that kind of thing as well. So just to help people, find their own artistic voice and connect with nature as well.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. We'll get into a bit more detail in just a moment and how that mentoring program is working for you and Lisa. But before we get to that, boss, should we say good morning to some people?
We should. They were here early this morning. We weren't even that late. It was already firing up. Of course, always first, Philip Johnson. G'day, BFOPers. Is this the Monday show or the Thursday show? Lol. Good morning, Ben. Definitely the Thursday
We're not
show.
sure.
We had to skip the Monday show.
Yeah.
But we'll catch up on it next week. But yeah, I was a little busy driving from Bright via Bendigo down to the Yarra Valley to do a pretty crazy 2-day shoot that will
and also dropping me in Seymour along the way.
That's right. That's right. It was busy.
I had to walk home.
Lisa Leach, star of the show. Good morning, guys. Big hello to Ben, LTK Photo. Hey, David Mascaro. Hello from Kentucky. Yeah.
What are you doing in Kentucky?
He's visiting. Oh, it's on someone. He's visiting someone. He sent me some good photos for Monday's show that we didn't do, but we'll bring them up on the next one. Very cool photos. Neil Leach, good morning. Yeah,
hey,
Paul.
Neil.
Sorry about the theme song. It gets stuck in your head. It was a gag, but it's might be becoming a real theme song. We'll see. Stuart Lyle, good morning. Nick Fletcher, good morning. Hello, boys.
Hey, mate.
Rodney Nicholson, morning fellows. Okay.
G'day, Rodney. Great to have you as always. Let's talk about the mentoring opportunity that you've got going at the moment. So this is one of the services you offer. You've obviously you've been doing this photography, landscape photography, for about 10 years. Am I right?
Yeah, I think I first picked up a camera when I was probably late 2013, early 2014. So yeah, a bit over 10 years now.
A bit over 10 years. Yeah. And you've obviously built up quite well, and we'll get to your work in a moment. Tell us what led to you wanting to become a mentor for people.
Yeah, I mean, it it felt just like a very natural flow on. So I've been doing workshops for a few years now, which are awesome. I love, I love running them and showing a group of people around and getting into the field. Like it's an amazing way for me to still get into the field and, take a group of people and have them see these places, for the first time through their eyes and all of that kind of thing. And then sometimes there are like, you get clients that they want more to sort of learn about from you and spend maybe a bit longer time and don't necessarily need all of that fill time. And so it just was a bit of a natural flow on from that where, having people that want to be like spend a bit more time with you, because obviously a workshop you're limited to anything from 4 to 7 days is typically the duration that I'm running. And then I offer sort of follow-up sort of editing sessions and stuff. But aside from that, that's kind of your time done until you book the next one. Whereas a mentoring session, it's not getting into the field, but it gives you the sort of, the long-term sort of application to be able to really challenge yourself and, try and really grow as a photographer over the space of a year rather than the space of a week. Which is really like intensive and intentional, and it means we can really deep dive into maybe personal things that this person is hoping to get out of, so it can be totally customizable compared to running a group environment where you're sort of mostly tailoring it to a few other people as well at the same time. Just a really personal one-to-one long-term experience, which I think is really powerful for long-term growth for sure.
I'd have to agree.
Idea.
Yeah.
It's like, because, and imagine, say for landscapes, for example, like imagine doing that, doing a year. And then also if you can get on a workshop with yourself once a year or something like that as well, get into the field, but you've had that, like you really know each other, how everything works. And then you'll get even more out of the workshop as well. It's actually, I'm surprised it's not a more common structure in the photography world to have, whether it's monthly
these days, especially. I mean, I know we've had guests that have been doing this sort of gig for 50 years, and some of them have mentioned about having mentors, and I think it's a really, irrespective of what the agreement is, I think it's a very selfless thing for a photographer to do, to impart their knowledge on others. Obviously you do workshops, and that's one delivery method, but I think a one-on-one mentoring program is really great for someone who needs to build their confidence, have someone to fall back on, say, hey, I went and did this, but it didn't work. Can you help me unravel that and work out what went wrong? I think there's a lot to be said for it. Have you ever thought of doing it, Justin?
Offering mentoring?
Or is that why Jim works with you now?
No. I want to find a mentor. I want to find a mentor. I don't think I'm not really at the offering mentoring stage. I would maybe do it.
No, I think you undersell yourself a bit
for
there,
business, maybe for the business side of things potentially. More so than photography technique. But
so you heard it here first, folks. If you're looking for a mentor on how to run a photography business, Justin has just put his hand up.
Sure.
Hey, I'll book you in, Justin.
Hey, look at that. Make a deal.
There we go.
Maybe we can do a trade, because I am ghastly at landscape photography. I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't
you've got a Canon
happen for me. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it's because it's the Canon.
Yeah, go get yourself a Nikon and then we'll talk.
There it is.
Exactly. I mean,
Jim will be cheering at this stage.
A lot of the big landscape photographers do seem to be, I mean, a lot are on Sony, but a lot of them do seem to be on Nikon. So I don't know.
They know where it's at. Yeah,
they know where it's at. They know. We'll dig into your camera gear later.
Yeah.
Hang on. Look, Jim's in the chat. I knew it. He's like, Nikon. He loves it when he should have been on. Jim's busy this morning, unfortunately, because he dropped me off at my house at 11 p.m. last night, and then still had to go home to his house and unpack and everything. And now he's probably busy sorting out Lucky Straps orders for everybody. So there's that.
Love you for that, Jim. Thanks for taking one for the team. Well, we just sort of sit around and talk shit all day.
So mentoring, your mentoring, what we were talking about before the show, is what potentially the best 1 year in photographer that anyone's ever seen, Lisa Leach.
Yeah. So Lisa, she's done a few workshops with me now. And we got chatting during a Kayama workshop that I was running back in June, and she was keen for something like this. And she's her progress over the last year has been amazing. Like she came on, the first one with me was a Tarkine one in November last year, which I ran with Paul Holan. And we were both very surprised that at that point it had been only 6 months, and we were like, oh man, it's like you've skipped the like intense clarity slider stage, and you've done the the whole garish editing, and you completely bypassed that. And very very quickly and intentionally thinking a lot about her compositions and all of that kind of thing. So and picked up technique especially quite quickly too, especially in camera stuff. So it's been really cool to see her progress, especially over the course of a few workshops and now this program that I'm running with her. It's just, what we're able to do now is dig a lot into like the mindset stuff and, intentionality. We're like a lot of what I'm talking about with her and all my workshops in general is intention. And, you can have a bad, messy photo and a really good, messy photo. Or chaotic photo, I would say. Most of the time it comes down to good intention plus good execution. And having that sort of understanding of what you want to do and then honing and fine-tuning that in the field and in post-processing is such a big part of coming away with really good work. And having the confidence to try that and the patience to know that it's okay to take a bad photo as well. I was saying in my mentoring session with her just a couple of days ago that creativity is kind of like failing upwards. Like if you're not taking bad photos, it generally means you're kind of falling onto crutches rather than being creative. It means you're not necessarily trying new things. So if you're taking bad photos, that's a good thing. It means you're challenging yourself. You're trying to find new ways of interpreting whatever you're photographing. I think there are lots of people out there that put a lot of pressure on every frame that they come away with to be brilliant, and it's just not how it works. So that's been a cool sort of like you can sort of touch on that stuff on a workshop, but again, diving into this sort of every month we're spending a few hours together on a different focusing on a different theme and all of that kind of thing, working on a long-term project. It's just been really good to sort of break through some of those barriers. So
it'd be very cool.
What?
Just live streaming those mentoring sessions so that we can all learn.
Oof.
Go on, Lisa. Just let it just go out into the world. Imagine.
Why do you have to steal her moment and make it about you?
No, I want to hear and learn from I just want to steal the information into my brain.
I'll take you under my wing. All right. Okay. Don't hassle me.
My photography.
I'll be your mentor. What do you want to talk about?
I want to find out when did that in your journey, how did those ideas evolve and become part of your photographic process? Do you remember when you started trying to be more intentional or push yourself more creatively to make images that maybe aren't, the perfect shot instantly, but they take you to the next level by failing upwards?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, my mindset with it all has always really been very intentional. And I think part of that is like, I draw a lot from like inspiration. Like it's something I'm very, very open about is I love the work of other photographers. There are people that practice sort of photographic celibacy where they deliberately don't engage with other people's work so that they're only producing their own voice and stuff. I wouldn't say I'm the opposite of that, but I love absorbing a huge, huge range of work. And that really inspires me to shoot, which is probably part of why my style is quite diverse in terms of everything from the grand through to intimate abstract stuff. And so I think when I was learning how to shoot, because I was a teenager at the time and I couldn't afford to go on workshops or anything like that, the best I could do was look at other people's work and go like, all right, how did they do that? What have they employed here compositionally? What have they employed post-processing wise? Have they used this sort of lens? Have they, whatever it was. And so a lot of my sort of teaching, my sort of trying to educate myself years was really drawing on other people's work, figuring out how they might have done it. And then it kind of helped me to break through those barriers myself. And because I was just obsessed with it, I'm one of those people that I'm like obsessed with this kind of thing. I love it. And so even
Welcome to
though,
the club.
yeah, and so even when like a photo maybe didn't necessarily work out, it just kind of motivated me to keep giving it a crack rather than getting bummed out, so to speak. And I don't think there was anything to take credit for. That was just how it just happened to work out for me, because I liked it. I had no motivation to, you know, make it like financial at the time, because again, I was in like high school. I was in like year 10 when I was at this stage. And so it was just purely a enjoyment of it, sort of motivation. And so I think that really helped. And, you know, Instagram was only sort of had been big for a few years, and I wasn't trying to compete with other people or whatever. I was just trying to grow myself. And so, yeah, I think it kind of just depends on your relationship with it. And some people start with the wrong relationship with it, realize that, and then are able to grow past that. And I think that's really great, because Instagram and social media can have some poor influences on how we approach creating art, especially when everything's so algorithm driven. And
and I think there's also that, you know, it's a false economy in a way that, you know, all people put up on socials is their best shots for the most part, you know. And so exactly. Sometimes we feel like it's this unattainable level of skill. It's like, oh, they're so good. Like every shot they have is just amazing. It's like, yeah, but for every one of those good shots, there's 150 shit ones.
Imagine if your
Instagram
feed was literally every shot you've taken on your camera. You know, like your Lightroom catalog. Imagine if that was your Instagram feed. It was just live. You just
first of all, there'd be about 200,000 photos on my profile. But
I'd be in the millions.
I think we would crash Instagram, to be fair.
Yeah. But yeah, there's I don't know if you know many like American landscape photographers, but Alex Noriega is an American landscape photographer, one of my inspirations as well. And he's said before, I think probably just being a bit self-deprecating, but also probably true to a degree, is that how important curation is. And that, he says like if he was less careful with curation, people would think he was a much worse photographer, which I find hard to believe, because I think he's incredible. But
it's
you know,
true,
being
it's
selective with what you put out there and what you publish is like just as important. Like just when it comes to, you know, composing an actual photo, what you don't include is just as important as what you do include. And then that exact same process applies to then curation and publishing. So it's all of photography is being selective about what you show and what you don't show. And that's, both your composition and what you actually put out to the world.
It's interesting. I've heard both of those ideas, but I've never had, no one's ever sort of said that it's essentially the same thought process. But I've heard people talk about what you include in the frame and not, and then also people talk about, you know, pulling together a set of images or curating you know, a show to go in a gallery or something like that, and how important it is. But it's the same thing, just in a different level or a different part of the production process, I guess. What was I going to ask about? So Alex Noriega, is there any other major influences that come to mind from the early part when you were learning, like high school years? Like, were you doing? Were you just trying to reverse engineer what you were seeing from people's final images, or were you jumping? Was YouTube at that stage? Were people doing the, like, you know, come with me and I'll show you how I'm shooting this landscape scene and things like that? Or Creative Live
sort of stuff.
Did you ever go on Creative Live, the website, with the big video courses and things like that?
So I did get some like editing tutorials. Those are what I did sort of invest, like what I could afford and what I bought some of, and that I think helped a bit. Definitely helped with my post processing and kind of getting those advanced techniques and helping me sort of get through any barriers I might have with editing to achieve what I wanted to achieve. I don't think YouTube was really at the stage where people were doing much of the sort of come with me behind the scenes. This is like. Between 2014 and 2018, I think, 2019 at the latest. And from there, 2019 was my first year out of school. And from at that point, I was kind of knew what I wanted to do and was going for it just myself. But sort of, 2015 to 2018 were those sort of main formative years. And there wasn't much of that behind the scenes stuff.
I think a lot of that behind the scenes point of view stuff came about as a result of COVID. Like people were looking to be creative within the confines of lockdowns and travel restrictions, and so people were starting to be a bit more creative about, let me just talk to you about this stuff, and then here's the
and it was also a nice like immersive way for people to feel like they were still getting out into nature, kind of it's like, oh, this person's getting out there, I can kind of imagine being there with them, that kind of thing.
Definitely.
But the editing tutorials was probably about the most sort of like understanding how these guys were maybe putting things together. And so earlier influences, I mean, when I was like at that sort of 2016, 2017, 18 stage, I wasn't really shooting much of the details. I loved just the grand landscape stuff and a bit more of like the heavier processed stuff. So Ted Gore was a big one in the early days. He doesn't really practice anymore. He's another American photographer. He sort of blended landscape photography with a tiny bit of like digital art, but really tastefully. Like he'd do some creative processing and with the coloring and a little bit of, putting in clouds and all of that kind of stuff, but in quite a, not just a drop in the sky by default kind of way. Like he was really quite creative with his application of, perspective blending and shifting the light to what was there in real life and all that kind of stuff. Which did mean that my earlier sort of stuff was definitely more heavier processed than it is now. These days I'm, kind of aiming to have it pretty perfect in camera and, showing what I saw. But I think that stuff was just, I still love that work. And, I don't deride heavier processed landscapes at all. I think it's just a different way, as long as you're not deceitful about it and trying to tell people that this is what I actually saw when you didn't see this lightning bolt perfectly hitting this tree or whatever it was, and that was dropped into Photoshop, then, that kind of thing, as long as it's like people understanding it's an artistic, slightly fantastical interpretation of nature. I think Enrico Fossati over in Italy, I think he's brilliant. He does really creative, fantastical processing as well. And I think it's very authentic from him. But then I really love very natural, hardly processed stuff too. And I'm kind of in the middle of those two at the moment. Nice. Ted Gore for like the wide angle stuff. TJ Thorne is another American photographer. He was much more my early influence for getting into like the intimates and abstracts. I think he's still one of my favorite photographers. I think he's absolutely brilliant. And he's one of those people that is always just kind of that step ahead in terms of being out of the box. Like he started playing with street photography and cityscapes in the last couple of years, which is a total left of field for him. But he did it brilliantly. And just really creative interpretations of nature. And it was a big influence for me just playing around with, how can I make cool looking photos in the middle of the day with harsh sunlight in the forest or in the stream or in that kind of thing. Like, those are the two early ones, but I could list 100 of people that like, my Instagram, I still love, some people deride Instagram these days because it is very algorithm driven, but I really like my Instagram experience because it's just full of photographers who really inspire me. So
same. Every now and then I have to retrain Instagram because it'll somehow get stuck on American politics, and I'm like, no, my photographers,
Bring it back to the cats. More
bring
cats.
it back. Yeah, please.
That's usually when I delete it for a week and then reinstall it later.
Oh, well, I saw one of our friends of the show who's been on, Pete Mellis. He's recently decided to get out of the Instagram game because he's just he just doesn't want his images contributing to something he doesn't agree with, which is obviously AI image harvesting, which is a fair call. When we all started Instagram, that wasn't a thing. I'm sure it was happening at some,
not at all.
But all of a sudden here we are. We've all been sort of baked into this software, and now all of a sudden they're sort of flipping the game, which is incredibly disappointing.
There was always talk about Facebook's terms and conditions early on, where they're like, you do realize anything you upload, they technically have the right to use or whatever, and we're all like, well, that's shit as a photographer, but we didn't know what they were going to do with that. We're just like, then now we know.
And I think at the time, it was all web resolution, so we're like, oh, there's not much they could do with it anyway. Whereas now it's a bit more insidious, isn't it? So
I might. If you've got another direction we're going to head, Greg, I might quickly just pull up a comment or two.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
All right. I like this one. Bruce Moyle says, "Morning all."
Hey,
One and
Brucey.
only Bruce Moyle, listening while walking to a job, already enjoying Ben's POV, and I think that was back when you were talking about failing upwards and that kind of stuff, and I think that would resonate pretty heavily with Bruce. Being creative, pushing yourself, doesn't matter if it doesn't work. You're going to
Bruce is awesome. Bruce's
up.
work is I think Lisa actually showed me Bruce's work. I wasn't familiar with it before, and then I had a look. I was like, oh man, these are some of the coolest portraits I've ever seen in my life. These are amazing. No, thanks for dropping in, Bruce.
Yeah. We spent a huge amount of time with Bruce over the weekend at BFOP because he was an instructor, and he was hanging out with us a bit. He appeared on the morning show, and he gifted Justin and I each a print. A beautiful print of his work. So my partner Sash picked up a frame for me yesterday, so that's part of today's to-do list, is to frame Bruce's art. Thank you, Bruce, once again. I know Bruce. I cried on your shoulder when you gave it to me, but really touched, mate. Very, very touched. Let's can we roll back the clock a little bit? Now, I've done a little bit of reading about you, and in the early days, you were also a bit of an artist. You were a drawer and a painter. Tell us about that for you. Like, was that something that was inherent for you, or did you have family and friends who were artists that inspired you? What led you down that sort of artsy path?
Yeah. I mean, my family isn't like particularly arty. Like, I don't have, a mum that works in graphic design or a dad that's like a professional musician or anything. I think, I just, like, from when I was a little kid, they just got us, like, when you're, early 2000s growing up, and like, there wasn't iPads and stuff at that point. They still were giving you nice creative things to do. Out in the sort of back patio where I had a little, table, and they'd just give us, paper and cheap paint to have fun with. And I think that was probably honestly the first start of it. So I like, ever since I was like a toddler and could barely speak, I was just loving making like art, like I say, like painting and drawing, and in my spare time, and then when I got older and were allowed 1 hour or half an hour of screen time on Saturdays or whatever, I would use that to like watch videos on how to draw cartoons and then go back and draw it from memory, like that, while my siblings were playing, like, I don't know, Snake or whatever it was. And so and so like that kind of thing is just, I just loved it, like, right from the get-go. I don't know where that came from, but I think it's just who I am, is I love to create art.
And so the transition from drawing and painting to photography, I'm really keen to understand that step for you, because I used to be an artist. I went to art school. I studied industrial design. I did a folio prep year at an art school. But I also studied photography at that art school, and that started to lean more to that. How did that go for you?
Yeah, I think, so I kept drawing and painting through high school. So I did it for my visual arts HSC in New South Wales. So I did some large scale oil painting and charcoal and all that kind of stuff. So I did mixed media for that kind of thing. But I think it was 20, I think it was probably 13. My dad had like an old, I think it was a Nikon, what was it? D70. It's like a 6 megapixel.
I like how you say that's old.
Yeah.
People show up on this show with 100-year-old cameras.
Old, Greg.
I guess
for digital, it's very old. It's literally 6 megapixels.
It's just not Greg old.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah,
true.
So it was like, he just had that as like a family like camera, and I picked that up and started taking photos of like the dog in the backyard, and we'd for a few years when I was in high school, we'd sort of go into the city close to the Christmas time and take photos of the big tree, or they'd just go visit the big sort of decorated tree and stuff. And I took the camera in, and I just like very, very quickly clicked with it. I really, really liked playing with the camera and taking photos. And we'd go on any sort of outing as a family, and I'd take it with me. And so, it just kind of very soon became something I really enjoyed doing. And then we'd go on like a holiday. So I think 2014, I got my own camera. So split it with my parents, which was a D5200. which I used up
yeah.
until sort of 2019.
What lenses did you get with that bad boy?
Like at first the classic kind of kit lenses, and then
twin lens, the
the
kit.
Takina 11 to
The twin kit?
16.
Oh yeah.
There was my first wide angle, which is
Mm-hmm.
like the classic kind of budget, $350 kind of crop sensor wide angle lens. Yeah. So that was
Doesn't
when
matter.
I think 2015 I got that. And that was a whole new sort of world for me, which was awesome to play with, because so much of the photography I was sort of looking at was like wide angle stuff. So I was like, I got to get a wide angle lens.
Whereas the kits were like 18 to 55 or whatever, usually
and then like a 55 to 200.
So you're essentially getting 24-ish mil. You were probably seeing other people's work, and you're like, I can't get that. Look.
I was seeing these American guys and stuff shooting at 14 mil, and I was like, oh man, how do I do that? So
thank you.
So I got that for like as a family holiday to, I think, like Fraser Island is when I first had that camera. And then 2015 we visited Tassie in the autumn. The sort of April holidays, and then New Zealand in the September holidays, which is my first ever overseas trip and first time like seeing proper mountains like that.
Yeah.
And I just got my wide angle lens and was like, this is what I want to do.
It's very cool when you start photography. We've all started with a kit lens of some sort at some stage. And once you get your first kind of outside of that 18 to 55 to 200, like if when you get your first wide angle lens, it's like, oh my God, there's so much more to see. Like it literally opens your eye to a much broader opportunity to capture content and fill your frame, to quote Andrew Chapman. And the same with telephoto lenses. You drop your first 400 on your camera, and and you're just blown away by just that experience. All about the experience.
And then it's like you got to then realize that it's a totally different approach. Like if you're on the a 16 millimeter composition, you've got to get a lot closer to your subject matter than you do if with a 50 mil composition and all that kind of thing. So it's just that learning experience of how to work with different focal lengths. But I mean, like I used that kit for probably 5 years, and like I've one of my most well-known photos I've ever taken, and which won a few awards, was on that kit, which is like plus including my tripod probably cost about $800 total.
Which photo was that? Let's pull it up. I can do it.
While you do that, I'll just bring up this comment from Paul. Throwing to 16 to 35 L on my Canon 450D for the first time was an absolute revelation. You said it far better than I did. Thanks, mate.
Can I? Is there a quick way for me to get to it on your website, or
so if you go to, it should be probably in the mountains category. So if you go to my gallery and browse by theme, it's an image called Mutant.
I was going to say, I think I know which one you're going to say, but
it's like a cave with a lightning bolt.
It's insane.
Oh no, I don't have that one. I don't think.
Got it.
Yep.
Have a look at that.
Oof.
That was on what year was this?
This was like January 2019. So I was 18 at the time.
Wow.
Shut up. Stop showing off. That's
ridiculous. It looks like a movie sequence that's been made with CGI or something. Like it just looks like a spaceship would fly through this scene. It's beautiful.
It was a pretty mental experience. It's a good story actually, if you wanted me to tell that.
Please.
Yes, please.
So so my grandparents actually live in Katoomba in the Blue Mountains, which I think is another part of me enjoying like nature and landscape stuff. Is before I got the camera, we were bushwalking with them and all of that kind of thing. And so I'd finished my HSC, my like year 12, a few months beforehand. I was loving sort of being able to, get out and shoot whenever I wanted to, because I wasn't really working full time at that point, and just had a few savings and stuff. So I saw that there was a bunch of storms, like stormy weather happening up in the Blue Mountains, and I really wanted to get a lightning bolt over the Three Sisters, which I didn't end up getting on this trip. So I just went up and stayed with them for like 4 days, which was really, I'm very lucky to have been able to do, and that I still can do if I want to. And so, I was staying with them, and we noticed that on the bomb, there was this big sort of storm that was building out to the west. We could see the cloud on the radar was just really growing out to the west. And I knew that this cave faced west. So I was like, okay, well, I wonder if I can frame the storm from the cave. And so went out. It's probably 2:30 in the afternoon. Sky was already kind of turning black, and went down into the cave. You got to kind of climb up a couple of meters to get into it. And I just sat in the cave for a bit, watching the storm develop. And I was like, I just told myself very foolishly, I was like, if the storm hits before I can get out, I'll just wait it out in the cave and I'll be sweet. It really develops, as you can see. The lightning wasn't playing around. It's just, it's being sent straight down into the valley. It wasn't crawling across the sky or anything. It was very, very aggressive.
That's at eye level, like it's right at you.
Pretty much, yeah. And so, it just sort of turned into this monster kind of coming through the valley. And then when it hit, it hit like a freight train and was blowing rain in sideways at me. It was blowing grit from like sand and stuff from maybe the cave, maybe from elsewhere that had picked it up. And so I just kind of 18-year-old me with my camera and like a sling bag, sitting in like a puddle in the cave for like half an hour while this like lightning raged around me and the wind like just absolutely drenched me in the space of like 5 minutes. It was a pretty terrifying experience. And then there was like a slight lull in the rain came through. So I was like, all right, now's my chance to get out. So I like clambered down from the cave. I think I lost a filter case to the wind out into the valley, and then sprinted out. And as I'm kind of like running across this totally exposed cliff top, I realized as I'm carrying an aluminium tripod and an umbrella. And so I'm just a walking lightning rod going across this exposed cliff top. And so I just sprint over to my car, chuck my stuff away from me. And as I'm fumbling with the keys, a bolt of lightning hit the cliff top probably 50 meters away from me.
What?
Yeah. So that was, I was shaking for a few hours after that.
So you then stepped into a fully metal car.
Yes.
From the relative safety of the cave.
So shot off from there. The road was just like a bomb had hit the place. Like it was just trees and litter like scattered across the highway. There was SES vehicles sort of racing by. And I found out later as well that being in that cave was very stupid, because apparently when lightning strikes a cliff top and there's a cave underneath, the cave almost acts like a spark plug. So I was not in a safe place at all.
Doesn't it? So it just passes through.
Yeah. Honestly, I was lucky to come out of that unscathed, but I came away with a pretty cool photo, so I was happy with that.
It's pretty cool.
So,
and I think it's interesting listening to people's stories. We, for those of you watching that don't know, we just returned from BFOP, and we'll cover that on a Monday night episode. But so many stories about landscape photographers. Like I spoke with Mika Boynton and Matt Palmer, who have the Alpine Light gallery in Bright, and it made me really understand and appreciate the experience that landscape photographers go through to get these shots that we, unfortunately, more often than not, just flick past in a moment on socials. But that experience, that storytelling of like you've just taken us through, is so valuable to understand. I think they almost go in partnership with the finished image. That experience that you had to get there, the storm and how that impacted you. Because often we see these amazing photos and we think, I wonder how they took that. But realistically, they probably risked a little bit of life and limb to get it. And I love that about landscape, that there's more than just the image. Always,
Yeah. And I think it also goes like, so this image won a couple of competitions. And so it's not technically perfect. Like it was on, like I said, pretty cheap kit. So it's not the sharpest photo I've ever taken, just because of the quality of the lens and all of that kind of thing. And But it goes to show that like what people connect with is the photo. It's like you can get into the weeds of technique and perfect like not shooting anything out like higher than f11, because otherwise you'll start to get slight lens diffraction, or having slightly blown or clipped highlights or shadows or whatever, which if you can avoid those things, it's good to strive for a technically good photo. But what's more important is the photo itself, and no one's going to look at that photo and be like, oh, it's a little soft in that corner, Ben, not a fan.
No.
Like it's just not what people care about at all.
Well, there would be some people online who say that, but it's just not worth listening to that noise, is it?
No.
It's interesting too, because obviously when you're a professional photographer, you're often at the edge of trying to get the most out of your gear, and you want the best gear, and that's totally normal. But it's always fun to look back deeper into someone's career, and it's like all of the changes of cameras and camera systems or whatever all just melts away when you look at someone's portfolio, and you're like, this could have been, you could have said, oh, this is back when I shot on Canon, or this, this was a whatever. And it's like, but we get to the point where we're worried about whether you're on the Mark 1 or the Mark 2 and which one's got better, slightly more shadow detail or something like that. But you look back through images like this, it doesn't matter what camera it was shot on. You would have got this shot on any camera. It's always interesting going deep into someone's iconic photos.
I do that sometimes with Lightroom. You know how you can choose which camera you shot something on, and you go right back to some of your early cameras and look at your catalog, and it's quite amazing. It's just interesting to reflect sometimes, I think. Speak of the devil, Matt Palmer from Alpine Light and Bright. Well said, Ben. Oh,
hey, Matt.
What's up? And we had this up before, but David Skinner says, what is so well done is just the right amount of detail in the cave as we look out to the magic. And I think that's really important too, because if the cave was dark, obviously, if you went for just a sort of a single exposure look, maybe the cave would be pretty dark, and it would still be a really cool photo, but being able to see some of the texture in there, but without it being too pushed and starting to look, HDR-ish, I think the balance is perfect.
That's a big part of what I like with low key style dramatic landscapes is like dark but detailed. And which I think that's a big part of the American influence. They love that sort of, at least, that sort of phase. This is very sort of, Ted Gore, Ryan Dyer type photo influence, is that sort of the details there, but it's not in your face. For a low key dramatic landscape.
Well, the thing when I see this image is that it draws my eye straight to the center of the frame. And then you kind of pull back a bit, and then you start to see the detail of the surrounding cave. But the cave, like even some of the line, some of the directional kind of indicators of the cave push you back out to the storm. It's a really very well composed shot, I must say. Well done.
Thank you, man.
You keep searching for more in the picture.
You
keep getting drawn around into different elements and stuff like that. It's really beautiful. How much post-processing work is involved in an image like this? How much time and what do you have to do for something this, I guess, complex?
Yeah, so I think this was like slightly in my more like slightly heavier editing phase. So it's a little bit more glowy, I think, than I would take it today. I think there was a little bit more color shifting with like that sort of orange bit on the left. There was some warm tones there, but I think I pushed that a little bit. There's a little bit of dodging to sort of bring out a touch of some of the shape in the clouds, and in like sort of emphasize that texture that was there. Again, all there, but sort of brought out a little bit more with post-processing, a bit of targeted like clarity and dehaze and that kind of thing on the clouds, again, to bring out their shape and textures. Some targeted vignetting as well to make sure that the cave was all quite uniform in darkness, whereas I think realistically the floor would have been a fair bit brighter than the roof of it. So like things like that, balancing it out so that that the cave didn't feel like a distraction, things like that, so that there's no points of luminosity that were distracting, because the cave otherwise acts like a very natural vignette into the image, and so helping it be that with the processing as well.
And I think it's fascinating because you're right. It does act like a bit of a vignette because the frame is so organic and irregular. You know, that in itself draws you around it, you know, tracing the very fine edge of the cave as you look at the image. It's very masterful, I must say.
The top right corner, it's I always end up back up there, that little little extra cutout, that little cutaway. Anyway. We've
so
this image all podcast.
I know. So Ben, what came next for you? So you finished VCE, you clearly realized that you've got an eye for photography, you've got the bug. What came next?
Yeah, so 2019, first year out of school, I went to town that year. Just, you know, if I had $50 to my name, I was spending $30 on petrol so I could go down to Kiama and catch the sunrise, you know, that kind of thing. I just loved it. So, and because again, when I was in high school, I kind of knew of all these places that I wanted to get to, but didn't really have the means to do it. I was kind of restricted to, you know, being taken out by the family or whatever. And so I just really went to town, did heaps of shooting. And just really honed myself in. And I think probably halfway through 2019, I think it was a visit to Bermagui in like April. It's like, you know, Camel Rock and Horsehead Rock and all that kind of thing, with another Aussie photographer who was a mate. Haven't seen him in a while because he moved overseas. A guy called Jacob Lewis. He'd done some workshops with some a couple of people. One of which was Eric Bennett, who's another international photographer, and he loves that sort of intimate abstract stuff. And shooting with him, he was doing a bit of that stuff. And so I started to play around with that kind of thing too. So kind of halfway through 2019, I was playing around with not just the wide angle grand scene kind of thing, but more of the textures and patterns and all of that as well.
Yep.
And then I think it was October, I went down to Tassie with Luke Sharkey, and that was an awesome trip. You know, Luke's a great guy, and we had an awesome time. He was gracious to show me around for about 8 days, I think. And to a couple of his favorite haunts. And we covered a lot of ground and got some really special conditions as well. So my first trip to Tassie, actually, I forgot to mention this. In 2018, for my HSC, I went down to Tassie with my dad. And we went and hiked up into the mountains at the back end of the overland track. And that was my first kind of overnight or multi-day hiking experience in Tassie, taking photos. And I think that really sparked the love of both of those things, so the Tasmania and the real wilderness stuff. Just getting to see, you know, what you could photograph when you go into that extra effort to get into the backcountry. I was like, oh, this is great.
Hang on,
so that was a big part of
for school. That was like part of like a project that you wanted to do.
Yeah, well, so I was doing my visual arts for one of my subjects for the HSC, and I wanted to do like a landscape photography / painting / drawing project. And so my dad kind of did like a fun trip with all of us when we were in our 12th year, and that was ours. So it could help me sort of do that. And so, going down to Tassie for that sort of experience was really, I think, quite a big shaping thing for me as well. And I think it's a big reason why I love hiking and, you know, multi-day camping and getting into the wilderness and photographing it.
I want to ask you about that because you mentioned, I'm not sure if it was on your website or in the article that you wrote for the photography magazine, but you talked about that intentional mindfulness of when you arrive at a place, you don't rush to get the tripod and the camera out, and you just sort of take a wander and not worry about the gear and explore the scene and almost forest bathe for a little bit just to get your head in the game. And, you know, Levin Barrett, who goes under the banner of Rare View Photography, he talked about a similar thing when they would fly on one of his workshops in New Zealand. They'd land on a glacier and they'd all get out of the plane and pull out all their gear. And then he would get them, he would do it the other way. They would get the shot out of the way or the shoot because they were so excited. But then he would encourage everyone just to put your cameras away and just sit.
Yeah.
And just actually reflect on how amazing it is that you're sitting on top of a glacier in the middle of New Zealand at all. You know, it's that whole, what is that like for you? What compels you, I guess, to not think about the gear until you've sort of settled in and absorbed your scene a little bit. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm also not necessarily like I'm sometimes pretty quick to bring it out as well. Like if I see something that I want to shoot,
The light's
I'm
fading.
bringing out the camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think connection to the landscape is so important as well. Like if you're actually going to shoot something, you should be connecting with, all right, I actually resonate with this. And I think hiking is like a really good way to do that, like to force you to do that. Because, you're not going to be bringing out your camera every 2 seconds when you've got 12 Ks of uphill hiking to do with a 20 kilo pack on your back. So you you're suffering a bit while you're doing it, but you're also like just forced to, like, as you walk, you're looking around. Like I try to be quite intentional when I'm, when I have the physical capacity to do so, to not do anything but just look at my feet and trudge along, is to look around and just really absorb these elements that I'm going past and walking through and around, and what's happening in the distance. And, you do that for half a day or whatever, several hours, you're going to generate some ideas of what you resonate with, what is happening in the landscape, what you connect with, and what you want to shoot. And so, yeah, and I think when you first get to if you get to a location for the first time ever, like you're not familiar with it, I think you really got to do the groundwork. For me, when I'm like visiting a location for the first time, and especially if I'm like, if it's a vast area and I really want to get a grand landscape sort of shot from it, I will do a lot of scouting. I'll be walking all around the place and trying to find unique foregrounds, unique perspectives, unique ways to interpret the scene, especially in a way that hopefully other people haven't done before. And I mean, that's quite intentional for me. That's like with the goal of coming away with a photo, but it's also, I'm absorbing the landscape at the same time. That's a lot of what I might do. A lot of incidental, like intimate and abstract shooting is while I'm scouting for my grand scene, or hiking in even, is I might notice these little scenes along the way and pull out my mid-range or my long lens and snap that and then keep on scouting. And so that's kind of that scouting process is a lot of how I then resonate and connect with the landscape, and I figure out what I enjoy, and just bringing out the phone and being like, all right, well, what does this look like with if I go to my 0.5 zoom, will this actually look good in camera? Or is it one of those things just doesn't translate and it's just good to the eyes?
That's a clever way to do it. Yeah.
Because it's so much more like the phone's just so much more freeing than like my tripod's a big, heavy, like it's as tall as me and I'm about 6'5". And so it's tall? Like it's holy with shoes on.
It's as tall as Jim.
You don't look very tall on this screen.
Wow. Actually, there's a photo from the weekend of Lisa up on I think when she went and did one of the landscape workshops up on the mountains around Bright. There's a photo of her holding a tripod, and the tripod is Lisa is, she's compact. But the tripod like stuck up above her head by about a foot. I thought, how are you going to take a photo with that? You need to step ladder too, Lisa. Sorry, I love you. I'm just having a bit of fun.
So yeah, it's just like bringing out the tripod first thing is just like so clunky, and so it just immediately ruins that sort of flow of like finding the shot. So I love to, whether it's my actual camera or if it's there she is. There's the actual dimensions. 5 foot and a smidge.
The actual dimensions.
That's a specific
Choose your dimensions, Lisa.
5 foot and a smidge. I don't know if that's. I'd like to measure to see how much of a smidge that is.
And then so whether it's my actual camera or it's my phone, I will be doing that freehand, and just like literally, if I find a foreground that I think has potential, I'm then seeing what it looks like. If I step back 2 steps, or if I go to the right, or if I'm shooting it at 24 versus 16 mil, and all of that kind of thing. And then once I've like found that spot, then I'll like hover there and then set up my tripod, because I like to get the technical sort of perfection that a tripod can provide. If I want to do a 2-second exposure, then I can do that, and focus stack it and exposure blend it. But getting to that point, it's hard to do that with a tripod attached. And so that sort of free flowing interaction with the landscape, I think, is really important as an initial step before you get bogged down in the weeds of setting up an image.
Completely different genre. The last couple of days I've been shooting action sports, like Adventure Moto Challenge down in the Yarra Valley. But most of the photographers were running around with multiple cameras. And I've done that plenty of times before in the past, shooting events and things like that. But I ended up shooting a ton of the weekend, getting up close with my R5 Mark II, which is a smaller body than my R3, and a 28-70 lens, which is a really lightweight 2.8 lens that Canon make. And like just ditching everything off my body. So this is more like kind of closer to what you're talking about with the phone. I could move so fast around the space to find different compositions and stuff, even just ditching that second body off me that would normally like move around and stuff. And I didn't realize how much it was slowing down me trying to find different perspectives. And then, once I just ditched everything, you could move around the scene, find different angles. And I was getting stuff that, that I think I definitely wouldn't have got if I had, even though having multiple bodies makes you feel like you've got more options of focal lengths ready to go at any time, but it was giving me less options of variety around the scene. So I think it's kind of a similar thing to say where you put everything aside, grab your phone and just move around as much as possible. Before you start to settle in and hone in on that precision of the shot you're trying to get.
Yeah, you'll find like hundreds of photos on my phone that are like a near identical version of an actual final portfolio shot I have on my website. Both for intimates and wide angles as well. So my chair is sinking a bit. I'm just going to put my chair up. But yeah, I need to replace this chair. But yeah, like it's there's like a whole bunch of photos that are like for both small and wide scenes. Thankfully, because you got the 3 lenses on the iPhones now as well, and so both the zoom and the wide is good. And so having that as like a scouting tool is invaluable for me. It just
I remember seeing some, we'll say more senior photographers in the past where they've got, I think filmmakers use them, and it's like an eyepiece with a particular focal kind of range in it. Yeah, it's that whole thing, but it's just let's be real. We all carry a phone. It's a great composition tool, just to, like you said, just to see if the light's there, if the composition is going to work the way it is. Neil Leach has just chipped in to say that Lisa is being a bit generous about her height.
5 foot and a smidge.
Just
under 5, maybe.
Maybe just depends on what shoes she's wearing. Obviously, that makes a difference.
So I still want to dig through a lot of your images in the show at some point and get you to tell us a few stories and stuff. But I also want to talk to you about some trips that you've done, workshops that you've done, favorite locations and that sort of thing. But I think now might be a good time to, because we've been talking about it, dancing around it. Let's just nerd out on everything that you take on a landscape shoot. Because you mentioned, I've heard you say 20 kilo pack. I've heard you say you carry from 14 to 400 mil of focal length options. And the world's biggest tripod. Tell us about everything that that you take on a shoot. Details, brands, everything.
The bag as well. Cool. You like your pack.
What bag you pack it all in. I want to hear it all.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, so I'm a Nikon guy. Nikon, I have been since day one. So ever since that D70, I've never left Nikon. Started with the D70, and then it was the D5200, then it was the D750, then the D810, and now the Z7 II. And the Z7 II is an amazing landscape photography camera. I've said before, and I'll say it again, that if I had to repurchase my whole setup today, bar going to like Hasselblad, I would buy the exact same setup again.
Wow, that's great.
So you don't lust for anything out of the system. You're like, I'm pretty content with
the only thing that I would like that would be nice is like the 5-axis screen, so I can flip it when it's in portrait.
Yes.
Outside that, there's not a thing that I need, because most newer cameras, most improvements that they're making are in video or sport shooting capabilities, which I just don't need at all. I don't need more advanced focus options for a completely static landscape. I don't need an extra 5 FPS per second for a landscape. I don't need 8K video because I'm not a YouTuber. I just
listen to the Canon shooter.
She's my only Canon ally.
I mean, you got Paul.
That's true.
Sorry, we interrupted Ben.
Sorry,
I missed it. So yeah, I think the Nikon's awesome. It's got, I think, the best greens out of all of the sensors. I think, which is great for my rainforest work that I do.
Yeah,
I think.
course, yeah.
So they have amazing dynamic range on par with Sony, but Sony's color science is a little bit more off. And then they're really good. Yeah, I mean, they've gotten better, but you look at some of the earlier A7 models and it's pretty whack.
It was a big thing with weddings, we found, because with weddings it's a little bit different. It was all about skin tones, obviously, and Canon was always the best with skin tones.
And still is, I think.
And still is, yeah. And Nikon had better shadow recovery, like more dynamic range, and it did have better greens. It really did, because I switched from Canon to Nikon back to Canon again, not for any reasons other than, well, Canon took too long to update the Canon 5D Mark III. That's actually why. It took way too long. So I switched to Nikon and then ended up on the beautiful D850. So did you not have a D850? You said you went D810.
So I had the D810. That's precursor, but I never got to experience it. So like, again, when I got the D810, it was in 2020, so I was a year and a half out of school. I was actually working at George's Cameras in the CBD that year. So I had a 1 year stint.
Oh my God.
There.
Sorry, segue just for a second, Ben. When I was researching you, it came up with all these old emails with your name and email address. It's from when you worked at George's, because I used to do content for George's.
Oh, really?
I used to do content for their website and their blogs. Okay. We used to do my back then my partner Lee DeProse, and I started up a blog writing business, and we did a bunch of work for George's, and we even went up to Sydney to visit them, and small world. It's great.
Yeah, I might have been there at the same time. So I was mostly working in like stock receiving down the bottom, on the bottom floor. But so 2020 I was working there, and which helped me to get a bunch of gear at cost price, which was nice as a staff member. Someone brought in like a really good, like high quality, good condition, like secondhand D810, and like I think I was able to get it for like $800 or something like that. And so I was like, this is, I was on the D750 at the time, which was great, amazing camera. I just wanted a bit of extra resolution.
For a
36 was plenty.
It made total sense to go to that D810. I had a D810. I used it as a second body. It wasn't quite fast enough for wedding work, but it was beautiful for like the bigger shots that we would do on a wedding day, like a big group photo or a sunset photo or something like that. It was a beautiful sensor.
Yeah, so great camera, and like it was either spending $800 on like the secondhand one or several grand on the D850. It was like an obvious choice. I was already going from 24, so 36 was already a big jump for me. And then I used that until I went to the Z7 II.
Matt Palmer says D810 was a great workhorse for many pros. D850 was more of a good thing, and the Z8 is a beast. That gets me to this question. Have you, two questions, it's a two-parter. Have you played with the Z8? And if so, or just based on specs or whatever, in your opinion, why would, say, a landscape photographer like yourself choose either the Z7 II or the Z8 today?
So if I was doing... So I used to shoot weddings for a few years as well. If I was doing anything people related, like anything fast, like sport, wildlife, whatever, I would get the Z8 immediately. Like, is it just not even a question? Because again, that speed, that autofocus capability, all of that, incredible. And definitely a good step above the Z7 II. As someone who's only shooting purely static subjects that doesn't need the speed, doesn't need the autofocus, Z7 II. Because all of the improvements, like all the things that I would actually be using the camera for, are identical, if not slightly better, on the Z7 II.
That's what I was going to ask.
So the Z7 II is a little bit
quality.
So image quality. So the Z8 has a stacked sensor, so the dynamic range is actually maybe half a stop worse, and it means that the noise performance is just a tiny bit worse. Again, not noticeable, but it is technically slightly worse than the Z7 II sensor wise. It's heavier, so for my hiking and stuff, that's not good. It's the same batteries that the Z7 II uses, but it's a much more battery intensive camera. So it actually chews through batteries faster as well. So then you've got to carry more batteries with you if you're hiking into the wilderness. It does have the 5-axis tilting screen. So if you're mostly doing car shooting and the batteries chewing through isn't a problem, and you do a lot of low angle stuff, the Z8 is really great for that. But for what I do, like the sensor on the Z7 II is like, they haven't improved on it. And I feel like most of them are at that point. They're kind of plateauing with, they haven't really breached past 15 stops of dynamic range. Sony has a 61 megapixel sensor, but otherwise 45 has kind of been topped out for a while now, ever since the D850. And like their color science is great for what I do. I do just sometimes have to do a little bit of shifting yellows and oranges slightly more towards red, because it handles greens really well. It then sometimes means those warmer tones are a tiny bit too green for my liking. So that's a slight compromise that I play with. But yeah, like it's just everything that I need it to be has not been improved on since it came out. And so I would very gladly do it again. And it's such good value for money compared to the other options. I think you can get a Z7 II for like under $4,000 these days, which is amazing value for the quality you're getting in the package that it is. And like quite ergonomically comfortable as well. I've chatted to a lot of people that have used a range of camera brands and held, Sonys and Canons and stuff. It's incredibly light. And I think it might be the lightest of the bunch out of the Sony and Canon and Nikon as well. And it's, sorry, I've just lost my train of thought.
That's
and,
okay.
So light and comfortable in the hand. So it's just, it's a great package for me. And I really love the lens choices too.
I picked up Jim's Z8 on the weekend. I didn't do anything with it. I just picked it up and it's just such a phenomenal feeling camera. Like it just feels like the grip. It just, you've just got real control there, which is great. I shoot with smaller Fuji cameras, so purchase and like, the grip of it is tiny, and sometimes you feel like it's a bit finicky, but you pick up a Nikon Z7 or 8 or what have you got? R5. Don't pick up an R5. They're not worth it.
Yeah. The Nikon ergonomics have always been really good. I find Canons quite really good as well. I didn't have a problem shooting with either system in terms of ergonomics, but particularly compared to Sony's earlier stuff, I thought substandard ergonomics. But Nikon's always been right on point with that stuff.
I think what the Z series does really well is it has the good ergonomics while being so light too. Like the Canon has amazing ergonomics, but it's so super heavy for a mirrorless, which again, for when you're hiking is...
I disagree.
It's because they pack a whole bunch of stupid attitude into them. That's why. Look, it's going to prove you wrong.
Okay, 746. Hang on. Well, I need to see. I need to know for myself.
The Z8 is heavy. The Z8 is definitely heavy.
The Z8 is heavier. It's beefier, which is actually good for some. Like it feels pretty cool, but it is heavier.
And for a mountain of a man like Jim, I'm sure it feels like nothing.
It is. Okay, so it's only 40 grams. But so it's 705 and Canon 750 for the
Z7 II.
Z7 II's 705 with the battery and memory card, I guess. It's 615 camera body only. Actually, let me see. What does it say with the Canon? So 656 for the Canon, 615 for the Z7 II. So they're pretty close. The R5 Mark II is pretty light. Considering
maybe it's the lenses that I'm thinking of. The lenses are pretty brutally heavy.
Some of the
they're working to reduce that with this new range that Justin's been picking up lately.
I've been buying a lot of the lighter Canon, but their early RF stuff was
not getting any younger, Jay. Not getting any younger.
The 15 to 35 is a kilo. The 24 to 70, like the first RFs or the series.
Well,
stuff,
so that's where
it was a kilo, or 950 grams, but near enough. And it's like they feel beefy in the bag, and then you put them on the front of the camera and it wants to tilt forward, and you're like, ugh, it's a lot better now. But those first series they brought out, they really went after like optical quality, but maybe at the sacrifice of like a bit of weight for sure.
And keep in mind I'm seeing the Z8 perfect weight. It's a great weight. I'm thinking very specifically for like those counting grams for hiking and stuff. So the weight in that terms. Sure. But where Nikon does have in terms of the weight, like my 14 to 24 2.8 Z series is I think 650 grams.
That's so
whereas
good.
the FX one was, I think, 950. So they shaved 300 grams off this thing. And it's the best. It's the best wide angle lens I've ever worked with. It's incredible.
Right,
like it's super sharp.
Because I had that F Series one. That was a beast. It was a beast. It was quite heavy. It was big and wide. It was hard to fit in the back. So what did you say? It was 600 and something grams?
I think 650 grams. And they reduced the bulbous front element to the point where you can now just screw a filter into the lens hood, which is a 112 millimeter filter. So you don't have to use these big 150.
That's a $400 filter.
I was going to say that's a big filter.
They're not cheap, but it's compared to those aluminium like 150 mil systems that you used to have to use for a 14 millimeter lens. It's a pretty incredible weight savings and convenience, and you never actually have to take it off the lens. Like I have my polarizer just permanently in my lens hood because there's a lens hood sort of cap that goes over the top of that. And then so you can just take that off if you don't want to use a polarizer. So like it's pretty brilliant sort of system for that.
We were talking about what you carry.
I was going to say we'll get to filters. We'll get to filters because I have that written down to find out. But let's continue on now because we're kind of Z72 just one body in the bag, or do you take a backup as well?
Unless I'm like on a job and like it's really important that a camera doesn't fail, then I'll just have the Z72 with me. But I do have a Z62 as a backup, which I got while I was shooting weddings and stuff. So I still have that with me as a backup. Nice. So lenses is the 14 to 24 2.8. Nikon also has, just finishing off the sort of lightweight content. They have the I think the 14 to 30 f4, and I think that's about 450 grams. It's amazing.
Jim just bought that as like because he shoots a lot of primes and stuff, and he was like, I should just get a quick like a wide zoom. He tested that was the f4 one, I think he got
F4.
But he tested. They have a 2.8 option as well. That's kind of not as good for some things, but it's also quite small. But he ended up with that f4.
Okay. I'm not sure. So I've just got the 4. Yeah. They might have a 16 to something. Yeah, they have like a Tamron sort of partnership, I think, where Tamron kind of like makes rebranded versions. I'm not as across those options. But so they're 14 to 30 f4. If you don't need 2.8, it's like insanely light and compact. But then I like to be able to have the option for quality astro at times. So I have the 14 to 24 2.8. And then my mid range is the 24 to 120. So you get a little extra 15 mil compared to the Sony and Canon options, which is nice. Which is 24 to 105. So 24 to 120, which is my just sort of workhorse, like walk around scouting lens.
What's the max aperture on that? Sorry,
f4 all the way through.
Yep.
And then my Z 100 to 400 as well, which is a beast. That's probably 2 kilos.
And what sort of bag are you using? Just out of interest, what are you carrying all of this stuff with?
So I'm an f-stop ambassador. I probably shouldn't call myself that. I haven't really done much work actually to be that.
Just own it until they tell you to stop.
They kind of just brought me on, and then it's just I think they onboarded heaps of people at once at some point. So I was just in that wave. So for my day pack, so I've got a date. My day pack is the Anya, which is the 37 liter pack, and that's great. It fits in, my 3 lenses, 2 bodies if I need it. More room for like jackets and stuff up the top, so that's great. And then I used to have for my hiking the f-stop Shin, which is 80 liters, but it's just like they're camera packs that are trying to be hiking packs, and so I think the owner of f-stop says if you're doing multi-day stuff, you shouldn't be using one of our packs. It's more for like being able to carry heaps of stuff. So I recently, just a few months ago, bought a dedicated hiking pack from Seek Outside. They're an American company, and so they work kind of in that ultralight style of backpack, but a lot of ultralight packs are not great for anything more than sort of 14, 15 kilos. They're made to only carry ultralight loads, and then once you get above that, they become very, very uncomfortable. So these guys, they cater a lot towards hunters and stuff, so who are carrying very, very heavy loads. And so they're using ultralight materials, but then they have like an aluminium frame and stuff that helps, carry really heavy loads. So I was using that in Scotland just a few weeks ago, and I was carrying, I think on the workshop on the first day, my pack was 24 kilos plus my camera sitting on the front here, and it was the most comfortable hiking pack I've ever used. So that was amazing.
Just on that, Ben, just a question about carrying heavy loads. So a couple of weeks ago, we had Dr. Michael Coyne on, and he talked about, and he's a senior photographer now. He talked about his gym routine, and his, he plays a lot of tennis, but he also does gym so that he can carry the weight when he goes on assignment. Do you do any of that sort of thing, or is the hiking the exercise?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hike enough for that to be like my way of staying fit. So I used to be pretty like in and out of routine with fitness. Like I've gone through phases of, swimming and just like trying to go to the gym and sticking to the stairs and stuff like that. And then if I go on a trip, I just like suffer for the first few days, and then it kicks in, and then you're good for the rest of it. But the last kind of year and a half, I've been doing like kind of squad training at a gym, which actually simulates like high altitude oxygen levels. So that really, really helps. So you're in a room that sort of, I think they increase the nitrogen levels. So it's like you're training at 3,500 meters elevation.
Oh, wow.
And you get dizzy the first few times.
What's that gym called? Do you know what
the franchise is called Combine Air. I think that there's a few in Sydney. I don't know if they're multi-state, but that's I started running a few months ago as well, and it wasn't until I did that I realized how impactful that altitude training is. Because whenever I tried running before, I would think I was borderline asthmatic, but it just turns out I had poor anaerobic fitness, and there's doing this thing just meant that like I was able to straight off the bat start doing 5, 6, 7 Ks, and my lungs were absolutely fine. And so that's been really helpful for the anaerobic fitness, and then doing a mix of strength and cardio sessions helps with both having, especially like, squats and stuff like that is really important. Like having the glute and quad and calf strength for, like my body is disproportionately stronger in the bottom half than it is in the top half, which is pretty funny. But being able to do, especially stuff like squats, being able to pick up a 25 kilo pack and haul it around for 6 hours is you got to have some training behind you for that.
I think it's important for people to hear. I think it's important for people to hear, because even just over the weekend, people were going up to the mountain. What mountain did they go to, Jay? Wasn't Buffalo, was it?
No, they couldn't go to Buffalo, so they were going up to Hotham and I can't remember where else. Beauty, all around the place.
But people were coming back from that, not only suffering from the -11 wind chill that day, but also just the sheer exhaustion and effort required. Let alone they took a bus most of the way up. So I just think it's an important consideration when you're taking on a genre like this, that you can't just shoot from the car park. It's it's going to be a bit of a walk to get to locations. Just looking at your Scotland photos, which we'll go through in a minute, I imagine getting to some of these locations is there's not an easy. There's not a 7-Eleven behind the camp behind you and a car park. It's you really are in the rough.
And
I mean there are like. Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, you hit the nail on the head with squats, particularly something that a lot of people think is squats as a leg exercise. But if you want to protect your back long term, and you can do this with a coach and whatever safely, squats, putting load through the spine will help you immeasurably for carrying heavy backpacks long term. Same with deadlifts and things like that. So 100% agree. It might sound crazy to anyone that has an exercise like, I couldn't do that. You definitely can find a good coach. You can squat with the lightest weight in the gym. You can squat with a 1 kilo, or we start with broomsticks at our gym. Like, you can squat with anything. So everyone can get started and give it a try, but 100% find a coach if you can. So that you
the back thing is massive. Safely. Like, because especially because I'm like pretty tall and lanky, and then because I have disproportionate like sort of strength in my lower versus upper half of my body, I kept twinging my lower back, because what I could manage with my lower half was different to what I could manage with my top half. So then, having core strength as well is super important as well, because then, it might have the strength to be able to do a 100 kilo deadlift, but then like in your glutes and your size and stuff. I know this is very off topic. I'll move on in a sec, but then
no, this is
not at all.
And then, but then not having the core strength to be able to maintain the right, technique and everything will then mean you're doing in your spine. So it's really is an all-inclusive thing that you need to be able to do. But that said, you don't need to be a gym beast to be able to do landscape photography as well. Like there's so much that you can do within a very short walking distance. And it just means, you might not be able to get those wild mountain stuff, but there's so much beauty that you can access quickly. So I just want to make sure no one's hearing me say, oh yeah, you need to be going to the gym several times a week to be able to even do this stuff.
No, I think it's more, no matter where you're at, you can always maybe do things to try and make it easier on you when you want to go and do something. So even if you are at the point where you're sort of limited with mobility and that sort of thing, and you're only doing shorter walks, there are things that you can do to make those walks feel a little bit easier, not come back feeling sore and that kind of things. It's like, it doesn't matter whether you're trying to do, Nick Fletcher's trying to climb a 7,000 meter mountain in 3 weeks. He's been training for that, but you also might be just trying to be able to walk a little bit further up a hill that you like to take landscape shots at in the morning. And either way, training can help increase your abilities, I guess. Speaking of Nick Fletcher, that little Nikon Tamron wide-angle lens is a super small, cheap option. It is, and that's coming from the guy that on the weekend was. I saw him playing around with the Nikon the Z 35mm 1.2. Have you seen that thing? The new 1.2.
Yeah.
Nick's
I love when I was doing weddings. 35mm was like 1.4 was my absolute workhorse. Like I would take most of my photos on that thing, and to have a 1.2 would be incredible. But I don't even know how heavy it is, but I know it'd be enormous.
Mate, it's massive. He was rocking around, swapping between that and the 35 1.4, and he's like, oh, it's going to be, they're almost, the same, and look at how much smaller it is and what. And he's taking some test shots with it, and he's like, they're not the same. That 35mm 1.2, he said it was problematically good.
I'm surprised it hadn't been done before. So it's cool. It's very cool.
There's rumors of Canon doing one as well, I think. But
I wouldn't be surprised.
Nikon beat him to the punch on that, but it's massive. It's so big. It looks so front heavy, even on a Z8.
Yeah. There's a couple more comments there after. Nick, do you want to cover those off while we've got a moment?
Yeah,
Justin?
Absolutely. David Dare Parker. It was awesome to meet you on the weekend.
Hey, David. Good to see you, mate.
What a legend. Yeah. The Z8 is stunning. Add a Z6 for low light. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful combo. Roy Bixby says, heavy loads, that's what assistants are for.
Oh, it must be good for some.
Yeah.
That's the goal, hey. Start earning enough from this stuff so you can pay someone to Sherpa for you.
Imagine having a landscape photography assistant. You're just like, here, grab all my stuff. We're going over there. You're just rolling with no gear on your back. And if you could set my tripod up over there, okay, perfect. Roy also says, I find the Z8 the perfect weight. Weight makes it steady enough, but wishes it had the button layout of the D850 D5. The D850 D5 combo was a ripper. I love it. That was the end of my Nikon run was that combo, and they were epic ergonomics. Now,
there's a question there from
Matt
Roy
Palmer.
too.
Matt Palmer says Mount Buffalo is back open next time you're here. Opened just after.
Did it just after we finished?
Just after PFOP, yep. All good points regarding gear, Ben, David Dare Parker says. And we have a question. I work in the dark from Roy Bixby. I work in the dark. Does anyone else miss LED illuminated buttons when they don't have them? Heck yeah, I do. Does the Z7 have LED illuminated buttons? Yeah.
Nah. I think the screen, you can do so much just from the screen that I don't really miss it. Like you can pretty much control every setting you want, besides obviously besides dials and stuff, just from the screens. I know, like I've been able to use my camera in the dark blind for years now that it doesn't really bother me. Like it's just
your muscle memory's all there. I
suppose the one thing I haven't mentioned yet was the tripod. So the tripod I'm using is the FLM CP34L2 or L3, I think, which is a beast. So yeah, like I mentioned, I think the base of it gets to about my eyebrows, and then once I've got the head on it and then the head and then the camera, it means it can get to about 2 meters off the ground, which is great because I'm often seeing things at my eye level, and so it's quite frustrating to not then be able to shoot something at my eye level. And just also being able to like extend, like let's say you're shooting on like a steep hillside, maybe you only need it at like your sort of, there it is.
It's cheap, not. But a good tripod.
I mean, compared to its equivalents in really right stuff and Pro Media gear and Gitzo, it's actually very cheap.
It's actually very
compared
cheap.
to like equivalent.
What does it weigh?
I can't remember off the top of my head. You'll probably be able to find it.
So load capacity 33 kilos.
Oof.
Oh my god! Maximum height 173 centimeters. Weight 1.95, but that's with no ball head.
So the reason I got this one is you can actually add a center column to that middle area. So that's got like a bowl in the middle there. So usually I have that. So usually I have the leveling base in the middle, which you can see in the next photo down. I find that to be really, really helpful. So you can sort of level it with that, which is quite cool. But then, if I wanted to get even higher for like the property photography stuff that I do, I just wanted the option to be able to put in a center column. I wouldn't actually recommend this one. I would recommend its smaller brother, which is the exact same height. It just doesn't have that big bowl in the middle, and it's the CP30 L42. So the 34 means the diameter of the legs is 34 mil. The CP30 just has slightly thinner legs, which is 30 mils, and that'll be lighter. You'll be able to get the exact same height. It'll be almost at the exact same stability.
CP30
L42. Yeah, that's the one.
$845 in Australia.
Yeah, that's the one I would recommend. If anyone wants that level of height from these guys, you'll see 1.4 kilos. So you're shaving off, half a kilo in weight there.
Still a big load capacity.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it goes flat. I like that, or almost flat.
Lisa says, I would not be able to reach to put the camera on the tripod. But we've all had a chat before the show, Lisa. We've all agreed to chip in and buy you a little short aluminium step ladder. Just take this when you
That's where that assistant comes in, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're going to
put Lisa on the shoulders.
Yeah.
There we go.
Are you sponsored by FLM?
I'm not. I mean, if they're open to it, I will be. But I think they're amazing.
Look at
so
this
they're
guy.
I
didn't even know these existed.
Yeah, so they do like zero marketing. They're a Canadian company, and they just make amazing quality tripods. But because they're a smaller operation and a smaller name, they're just not as expensive as your really right stuff and your Gitzo and stuff, which are pretty inflated in my opinion. So like for this level of pro level, last you a long time tripod, this is about the best value for money you'll get in my opinion. I've been super, super happy with it. And so I pair this with a Leofoto G4 geared head. So I was on ball heads for years, and I often found them very frustrating. And you go to fine tune a composition and you slightly move it too much, you lock it in, it slightly moves when you lock it in, the horizon's no longer straight and all that. And then you got to unlock it and try to do it again. That process was always really infuriating to me. So a geared head where you can just dial the horizontal and vertical axis to the most fine-tuned degree that you want is I found to be a game changer. I love this head.
This one?
That's
insane. So it's basically just a rip-off of the Arca Swiss D4, which is $1,500. So I love this head. It's really, really good. And obviously, again, it's heavy, pretty bulky. But it's one of those things where I every time I use it, I'm grateful to have it on there. And same with the height of my tripod. It's heavy, it's bulky. I could definitely have something smaller and lighter, but many times throughout, just even my most recent trip into Scotland, there were times, like many times, where I'm shooting at full height at that thing and I couldn't have shot a composition at any lower to get the fine tuning that I wanted. So yeah, I just kind of sacrifice weight and convenience for knowing that I'll be able to get whatever I want to get without any compromise.
And look, if it works for you, then, go for it. If it ticks all the boxes for you, then there's no need to look for something different.
Yeah. So good comment here from Roy. A tripod needs extra height in case you're on a slope or stairs. Obviously not the stairs out in the bush, but the slope particularly, you lose straight away. You lose that height.
Oh, some walking tracks have stairs.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool.
So that's the setup.
What about filters? Tell us about.
So I don't use many filters. So I've got some Nissi filters. I'm often using a CPL. That'll be sort of like probably 50-50 in terms of
circular
how often it's on my camera. Yeah. I don't do much ND work just because I'm often inspired by like what the clouds and water are doing, like the action of it and the texture and sharpness of that.
Yeah.
It's something I want to play with more. So like I bought those Jet Mag filters from Nissi earlier this year for my mid-range of my telephoto lens.
Yep. And
then I also bought like a 6-stop and a 10-stop for my wide angle this year as well. So I have the capacity to play with it more. I should play with it more, but I just often don't find myself gravitating towards that. I think I just really like sharp textured. And I think part of it was when I was getting into photography, that kind of ultra long exposure, super smooth water, streaking clouds was just coming out of fashion. Everyone had kind of gone to town with it for a while. It's kind of like the early 2010s and that kind of thing, late 2000s. It had its time being novel and was kind of going out of fashion. And then everyone was kind of getting into the more textured, like half a second water rather than 10-second water, that kind of thing. And so I think that being sort of the phase that I was getting into photography and learning and developing my style probably has influenced that too. So it just means I just don't gravitate towards it much. That said, there's a lot of photos that do utilize it that I love. And there are times where I see people's work with it and I'm like, oh man, I do need to open that up for myself more because I just don't think that way when I'm in the field.
And if you don't have those filters in your kit, in the bag, then you won't even have the option to experiment with that in the field. So I guess that's the first step is like get the gear, have it in the bag, and then see if you're inspired to take it out and give it a try.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So but for the most part, it's just nothing if not a CPL.
Yeah. Do you carry a drone at all for anything that you do?
No. I'm intrigued, especially for like some creative applications for it, like with trees and stuff. But no, I haven't really made that dive yet. I've been just sort of focusing on the ground-based stuff. But the kind of stuff that I would want to take with the drone is the kind of thing where you can't immediately tell that it's a drone. Like it might just be like an elevated ground perspective. Like it might be 3 meters off the ground, 4 meters off the ground.
Yeah.
Not sort of top down stuff. So that's the kind of thing that I'm interested in with drones, is just to get a slightly different perspective that is a little bit out of reach for me.
Need a bigger tripod.
Yeah. Actually, there was a pretty funny behind the scenes photo of me in Scotland on the last morning of our hike. There was this composition that I was shooting and there was these big boulders and stuff and a lake in the distance. And at ground level, even at full height on my tripod, there was this boulder that was just jutting into this lake at a really awkward way. And I was like, I like this comp, but I just don't like how this boulder is sort of interrupting the lake here. And then sort of realized that there was a rock just behind me that I could like really precariously perch on and like set my tripod super narrow. So my camera ended up probably being 3.5 meters in the air. But it just meant that like it got above these big boulders. The one in the distance wasn't like interrupting with my background anymore. And so, that would have been a good application for it. But thank goodness that rock was there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Should we dive into some images there, Justin?
Yeah, I was wondering, so can we do like a bit of a combination of checking out some images, but also talking about trips that you've been on, workshops that you've run, that sort of thing, maybe at the same time, if that works?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know, where should we start?
And I've also got a bunch of images from Scotland.
Oh,
from the
cool.
most recent trip. Yeah.
Would
They're
you
not
wanna
on his
start?
website yet. Do you want me to start with that?
Yeah, do you want to start with that? It's
Yeah,
recent.
let's do that.
Let's
well,
do
these are all
that.
brand new for everyone to see, so it'll be fun.
Ooh, the reveal. You got them there, Greg.
Yeah, I've got them there.
Yeah, okay.
One of them's my background.
Can you
photo,
take your
actually.
media off,
Oh,
Justin?
sorry. Yeah, I'm running a
Sorry.
new way of doing this. Let me add that on and then bring it to
Thanks, mate.
this. And then, yeah, I don't know if there's any way I can make yours bigger. No. All right. We're up. Where is this?
Cool. So, so basically this recent workshop, it was with Murray Livingston over in the UK. So basically what we did was we had our group of clients and we hiked in to an area called the Great Wilderness in the Northwest Highlands of Scotland, which is between the areas of Assynt and Torridon on the west coast. And basically our goal was to summit camp on the most remote Munro in Scotland, when measured by road, which is just sort of out of frame on the right-hand side. So our first day in was about 17.5 Ks. So it was a pretty big day.
Cool.
And actually what we did was, you won't be able to see it here, but on that little causeway with that little lock in the back of the photo, there's like this slight juncture between the two locks there. Our tents are actually set up right there on that beach. So the high res photo, you'd be able to zoom in and see our tents down there. So we're there for 2 nights. And on this day, this was day 2, we hiked up to this, most of the way up this mountain. We didn't quite get to the peak. We got hailed on, I think, 6 times. We had, mixes of total sunshine, total socked in with cloud. It felt like, the true sort of Highlands experience, with just, very, very quickly changeable weather, squalls kind of just coming in and out. So you can see in the background, those sort of, curtains coming towards us that, socked us in about 15 minutes later. So it's just a very, very dramatic day of interplay with light and cloud and dramatic weather, which was quite cool. And it really swelled up the rivers that ran off the mountain as well. So running off that background mountain, you'll see a few sort of rivers flowing off there, which just kind of really swelled up and then calmed back down a couple of days later. That was really cool. And that was then the same day as I think the next photo that you've got there.
This one?
So that was, which is my background actually at the moment.
Oh yeah.
It is too.
Yeah.
That's just
so
staggering.
so that's looking further out to the left of that same sort of area. So we hiked in all the way through that valley on the left on that first day, which was quite cool. And so there was just this really dramatic, again, that dappled sort of midday light. And when you get that sort of light, you can just shoot throughout the whole day. It's so cool. You can see the textures of the wind blowing on the lock down the bottom there.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. It's crazy. But just the expanse of it, it's just absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And you've got that little cloud dancing on the mountaintop on the right.
Yeah, that was my
completely
little
independent of all the other. Yeah, completely independent of all the other clouds going on. It's just magical.
So that was my little sort of cherry on top of that little cloud there.
Yeah,
so,
literally.
Yeah. And then some very different weather a couple of days later. The clouds totally clear, a different sort of pressure system moved in, and we got this amazing clear sunset. So that's actually the other side of that same lock. So that's the same lock there in the background before that peak. This is the day after we sort of summit camped on top of that big peak, and we made an impromptu change to the plans to get up to a slightly higher vantage point so we could catch this beautiful clear sunset. And we had this amazing sort of Louisian gneiss or gneiss, I'm not sure how it gets pronounced, playing with the mountains and stuff. I think that rock is one of the oldest types of rock in the world. I think it gets up to 3 billion years old, which is pretty sick. And we just had this amazing, especially after a couple of cloudy days, this amazing clear still sunset. And we camped about 100 meters further down from that, which was just really, really special way to make sure we got some lovely golden light for the clients and for ourselves as well, of course. Yeah, and I think this next one is later that night, actually. So this is sort of that last sort of alpenglow that comes through before it gets dark. So I think this was about at least 1 minute exposure here
Oh,
to get
wow.
this all in. Yeah. So you can see like this, the hillside in front of me was in shadow, which gives it that natural sort of cooler tone. And then the light is hitting the peak in the background, which is called Ruard Stack Moor, which translates to the Red Mountain. And you can see that, its red color doesn't come just from the sunset or the last light hitting it. It's actually a totally different type of rock. So you can actually see the fault line where it transitions from that gray Louisian gneiss to Torridonian sandstone.
Yeah.
So just at the bottom of that mountain, it goes to that gray sort of rock again. And we actually hiked up that fault line. So the big tall peak that we camped on is just out of frame on the right-hand side there again.
The balance.
And so, yeah, there's a weird kind of like transition, like between this old Louisian gneiss, this totally different reddish kind of rock, reddish purplish rock. And that just really, makes the name quite clear, the Red Mountain.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and then that last light just really amplified that, which I found quite nice. And we got lucky to have such clear still conditions as well to get that reflection in the lock beneath it as well. Yeah.
This shot has absolutely beautiful balance, and I love the way that you've gone a 1:1 ratio.
Not a common ratio for me to use.
No, it's not. But I think it's fun, and it adds interest, and it just changes the story up for the viewer, which is wonderful. Let's jump on to the next one.
Now, this is very like the same view. So that's the same mountain in the background there, but this time it's much wider. So this is the one where my camera was about over 3 meters off the ground, actually.
Oh, wow.
Which gives you a taste for how big those boulders in the foreground are, because I was shooting this at about 16, 15 mil. So we got a beautiful clear morning the next morning. And yeah, so that's the sun just peeking over the hill, sort of illuminating Ruard Stack Moor on the left, and then on the right is Evasion. You wouldn't think it's called that from the way it's spelt, but that's how it's pronounced. Which is the most remote Munro in Scotland by distance from Road. So yeah.
What's the Munro? What can you explain that for us?
Yeah, for sure. So Munros are, I think, mountains that are above 914 meters, which I think is 3,000 feet. Something like that. So they have like 200 of them or something like that. And so bagging Munros and sort of hiking and sort of trying to complete them is a big sort of thing amongst Scottish mountaineers.
So like ticking them off that list.
Right. Ticking them off, yeah. So cool. we hiked all the way up to the top the previous day and summit camped up there, which was a pretty amazing experience because you just got this incredible expanse of mountains all around you that you could just see super, super far. So yeah, we didn't quite really get too much light when we were up there, but even just being able to see the mountains from up there was incredible. So yeah, no, really, really, really cool. And then so we came back down there and camped around here the following night, which is our final night. And yeah.
I love that one. I think that's my favorite from this series. So
yeah, that is just spectacular.
It's probably one of my favorite moments for the trip as well. So this wasn't on the workshop. This was a different area when Murray and I were just hiking around doing a bit of our own photography before I had to fly back. So this is a little bit further south in the Torridon area. So this is that Torridonian sandstone, which gets this really cool, sort of pancake sort of formations almost to it. And yeah, they just make for such amazing foreground elements. And so on this morning, we'd had just the amazing, incredible, red, golden light. And so I'd actually shot a different composition earlier with that red light, but I came away to not actually like it as much as I thought I did in the field. But then as I was walking back from that, these beams were just dancing through the valley. It was absolutely incredible. And they were actually, you can see it's kind of spotlighting my foreground too.
Yeah.
That's not, that's not dodged up at all. That's very, very genuine. The way that got that golden light hitting it.
That's a magical shot.
Very, very authentic scene. And so, yeah, I'd shot this composition for hours the previous day, getting different interplays of light. And then as I was walking back and saw this happening, I was like, all right, this is So I knew exactly how to really quickly set up the shot and get that going. So yeah, that was pretty special.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Have you printed any of your works from Scotland? I mean, I know you've only just returned, but is that the plan?
No, not
Do you
yet.
print work?
No, I mean, I don't have my own printer, and I don't really sell many prints. I think it's pretty hard to sell prints without a physical gallery space to showcase them in, or at least I've found that. So yeah, if anyone wants to get some, let me know. But yeah, no, I don't really get many chances to print. There's a few that I would love to though.
I've just recently invested in a printer. We always had one while we were doing wedding work, and then when I backed sort of away from the wedding work a bit, I didn't have one in my office anymore. Jim's got it, so I sort of stopped printing, and then I just bought the Canon Pro 1100, which does up to A2, but mainly to do like this size print, and I've just been loving just getting them in front of, like that feeling of printing your own work out and just having a look at it. It's so good.
I'd love to do more.
Office.
Yeah. I don't have space at the moment, but eventually.
Yeah.
Definitely. Let's jump to the next one. Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
More intimate.
This one's actually ended up being one of my favorites from the trip. Just like a bit of a woodland scene. So after that previous mountain shot, the weather really just started to close in on the mountains. So most of them were socked in with cloud, and they were getting really quite windy. And so we had a few plans for more mountains, but we just pivoted to the woodlands instead, which is a very good call. I love trees. Rainforests are like kind of my thing over here. So it was nice to be able to shoot something that was my usual wheel. And I love my mountains too. But it was nice to get into amongst the trees and the foliage and shoot some of this stuff. So we were just sort of thanks, Matt.
What's NLPA?
NLPA 2026, watch out, Matt says.
It's a landscape photography competition, which requires like realistic processing and does raw file verification and stuff like that.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. So says stunning.
You've impressed Matt.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. But yeah, it was pretty cloudy for most of this day, but as I was exploring this sort of hillside in one of the glens around the Highlands, found this amazing big, quite shapely boulder with this birch tree growing out of it. I think it's a birch tree. Yeah. And I was like, this is such a cool subject. And then the sun just kind of broke through the clouds for a bit and gave me this lovely lighting through the scene. Yeah. And I hadn't had the time to fine tune. It was a very impromptu sort of scenario. So I just, the light broke through and I just sort of shot handheld a bunch of like a variety of frames for about 2 minutes before the light disappeared. Thankfully it was bright enough for me to easily shoot, f11 and a comfortable shutter speed and ISO 200. So I could just get it all in one shot without having to set up anything. But yeah, like it's just one of those cool, like just very fleeting, unplanned moments. That's ended up being one of my favorites from the trip.
That's great. And one last one that you've sent us.
Yeah, so I didn't know until this trip that Scotland has aspens. Colorado over in the States and stuff is well known for its aspen trees. And I felt like a little bit like I was joining them in this. It's much less widespread. And I think it's one of the species that they're trying to slightly reintroduce into some areas. But it is a native tree in their native sort of untouched woodland areas. Yeah. We were just driving through one of the glens early one morning and spotted this nice little grove of them with full autumn color, because we were a little early for proper autumn color. Like that previous photo in a couple of weeks' time would be full gold, whereas it was still mostly green. But this little patch here had some lovely just full golden colors, which I quite liked, contrasted against the green in the background.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it actually works in your favor because you've got that beautiful contrast.
Yeah, I love it.
And then the bracken fern down the bottom had they were all full sort of orange and red. So I was thought I'd just send through a bit of a mix. I've got a bunch more that I'll be editing and putting into a gallery release on my website, but that's what I've got sort of sorted and ready for now. So it's the debut for pretty much all of those.
Beautiful. And just quickly, I've got to backtrack to a question on that David Dare Parker had in a second. But before we do that, so you ran this workshop. Was this the first time you've ran this workshop?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So it went really well. We're really happy with it, and we are planning to do it again next year, if that's what you were asking.
Scottish Highlands Adventure.
I spotted it on here. It says coming soon,
Yeah.
so the dates are a TBC, but October 2026. You could have the.
Well, actually, we do have dates. It actually is going to be in September now. That was a previous iteration. So I need to slightly rejig what's coming soon for next year. But again, no official releases yet, but there will, instead of that Freycinet and Bay of Fires workshop, there should hopefully now be 2 Scottish workshops in September next year.
But I'm just putting this out there. So, Lisa Leach can't join you, I'm afraid, because we need her as our head cheerleader for BFOP 2026. So just
when is BFOP still October?
Yeah, early,
she'll be
10th.
fine. She'll be fine.
Yeah, you can do both, Lisa. Perfect.
Hey,
Lisa's actually. I talked to Lisa about the second one, and I think she's probably going to be joining us for it. So
awesome.
If there is a clash, I'm going to be stealing her away. Sorry.
So, what should people do? Obviously, there's other workshops on here as well. We'll touch on that in a second. But what should people do if they're interested in any of your coming soon workshops? How do they make sure they get an opportunity when they're when the dates are released?
So my newsletter is the best place to be. So my newsletter will always get workshop announcements a week before the public, full week. So it gives you a chance to book in. If you also expressly register your interest in something that you know is coming out, then I can, make sure to send it to you as well. But otherwise, just the newsletter is where I'll put things out for a full week before it goes to the general public. And I have had, a couple of workshops sell 75 to 100%. Within that sort of week before. Let me know.
If you click on coming soon there on the workshop page, it'll take you to the sign up spot, and then you can just pop your email in and get on the newsletter. Plus, you probably get lots of nice images delivered to your inbox, I would imagine, on a regular basis.
So whenever I put out a I don't send out heaps, like probably at most once a month, maybe twice if 2 things come up. But I'll also send, whenever I put out a new gallery release, that'll go straight to your inbox, all that kind of thing. So you usually get a little bit of insight into what happened as well.
Great.
And there's tons of other opportunities on here as well. Cradle Mountain, Freycinet Bay, Blue Mountain, Sapphire Coast, multiple Sapphire Coast dates. I think there might be one
this
in
needs a rejig.
2025.
I'm abandoning one of the Sapphire Coasts for next year. Okay. So I actually that page needs a little bit of reworking. Actually, I should have done that before this interview.
We all suffer. We all suffer from not updating our websites. It's the last thing that we want to do. When there's light to chase. One of the little thing I just found, I can't remember if you sent me this or if I found it on your website, but you wrote an article for Australian Photography a couple of years ago, and it's called Tree Therapy: How to Photograph Rainforests. And it's a really deep dive into your methodology, what you're looking for. I think that's where I read about the fact that you get there, take it slow, just look and watch, and as you said earlier about using your phone to play around with framing before you even open your camera bag. But we'll link that in the show notes later for anyone that wants to have a look at it. It goes really deep into everything you do, which is wonderful, and again, wonderful that you're sharing that knowledge with anyone that's, prepared to listen, which is great.
Quick question, backtracking a little. This is from David Dare Parker, but in the market for a new tripod head, not his actual head.
No, we like your head.
Is wonderful.
Perfectly fine.
What plate do you recommend for your Leo Photo head, Ben?
I think they send out a plate with it.
Is that the one you use?
I think it is, but otherwise I'm not really very fussy with plates. If it's Arca Swiss and it's not, made of plastic, I'm generally okay with it.
You don't use an L plate, or
I do use an L bracket. I do use an L bracket for my that's worth. Actually, sorry, I do use an L bracket for my camera. So I use the Sunway Photo one that's made for the Z7 II. Sorry, that was misleading.
Oh, that's okay.
Then I have the plate on just the foot of my 100 to 400.
The one that comes with the ball head. You just use that for the
Yeah.
So it's really funny one that I guess fits well with that camera body. I mean, they all do like everything from like really right stuff and 3-legged thing, all the way through, all make kind of customized to your camera L brackets, which is far better than getting a generic L bracket because it's going to block something.
Yeah, it'll block your battery compartment or your your jack to plug in your intervalometer or whatever it is. So that's what I'd recommend. But I mean, the some of my photo ones are not too expensive. I've used and abused these things. They're sturdy as you'll see how scratched up mine is, and it's still functioning perfectly well. So it's that's just what I've used for years, and I've got that for both my Z6 II and my Z7 II.
Nice.
Yeah.
He also says gorgeous images, by the way.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that.
All right. Should we look at some more images?
Yes, please.
Just anything on
my
your
newest
website?
gallery release was cryotherapy. There was like some snowy Aussie trees one. That might be like some recent photos there.
I saw that.
Is that under new release?
If you go to
cryotherapy, found it.
There you go. So this was a really cool like I think there's 14 photos, something like that. I think all but one were captured on a single morning back in July.
Wow.
So I drove made the 5-hour drive to Kosciuszko, took a day off work and off like my real estate work that I do or real estate photography, and because I saw that these conditions were sort of possibly going to be the case. And I've been wanting to shoot snow gums in ice and snow for years, and I just never had been able to make it happen. And so one of my housemates said he'd just been down to the snow. He mentioned it'd been raining a lot, which meant there was going to be lots of moisture around. I then saw this big freeze was coming through, lots of snow, and also like a lot of low cloud as well. And so I was like, oh, this could be really good. So I was like, I'll just screw it. Let's go for it. And so I drove down on a Monday morning and drove down the whole way. Did a bit of snowshoeing that night. And then the next morning I actually met up with local photographer Luke Hazard. He lives in Jindabyne and knows this area like the back of his hand. So I did sort of half of the track that we then did the full sort of area of the next day. And not a track, it's pretty much off path, but I just knew the area because I'd hiked through there before. And so we met up, and he was gracious enough to show me a couple of his favorite specimens, which was really cool. But we just had these incredible conditions where like there was this thick fog that kind of came in and out, combined with like the rain that had sort of snap frozen, and given those icicles that you could see. There was really thick rime ice on a lot of the trunks as well, which is that kind of encrusting ice that you see on a bunch of it.
I was wondering what that was.
So that's rime ice just there. And it was just amazing conditions. I couldn't have really asked for better for like high key textural portraits of these amazing snow gums.
And how cold was it while you're up there doing this shoot?
I didn't measure it. I don't know what it was, but it was cold. It was proper cold. It was snowing on us. It was like snowing on us like for a lot of it. So had the waterproofs on and gloves and all of that. It's a good sort of close up sort of example of the rime ice on the amazing sort of tiger stripe type bark of these snow gums. So it was a really, really fun morning. And so that was my one photo that was captured on the night before, and everything else was on this same morning. So a lot more snow sort of came in overnight and just made it even better for the morning.
It's amazing.
Beautiful.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so there's a few of these little textural ones in there.
I really love those. I really appreciate it because it just sort of, it gives you a bit of a blended feel of what was going on. It's not just all trees, it's, and even if it was, that'd be great because they're bloody beautiful shots. But just to get these little details here and there, it's just, I love it. Well played.
So that one was a nice little moment where there was a touch of sun that was trying to break through. You see there's a little bit of warmth.
In that glow, fog.
So that was cool. And then eventually it all kind of cleared a bit. But having that depth, especially with such a chaotic sort of subject matter. Like these are super sort of straggly, sharp, chaotic branches. That depth was really important to help just them stand out from their backgrounds and be isolated as subject matter. So the conditions were awesome. And you can see how thick some of those icicles were, like on the left-hand side of that one there. It was amazing.
Yeah, beautiful shots. What a morning.
Yeah.
It was one of the mostly handheld. There was only a couple that needed like focus stacking, which then brought out the tripod. But for the most part, like it was so bright that there was just no need to, if it didn't need to be focus stacked, then just didn't need to bring out the tripod. And it's so annoying setting up a tripod in snow that
I was just going to say, getting it to settle.
So only brought it out when it was necessary.
How often do you think ballpark would you focus stack in your work?
I mean, it depends a lot on the subject matter. Like if it's a near far wide angle with a close foreground, then every time for that pretty much, unless the light's happening super, super quickly and I don't have time, in which case I'm just bumping it up to like f18 and trying to get it with hyperfocal distance. If it's like a macro subject matter, like a small textural detail that isn't just on a flat plane, then pretty much all the time for that as well. But I mean, a lot of these, like most of these, because they're handheld, they're like most of these are single frames. So I'm not always doing those kind of subject matter that need it. So I know probably at least 60%, 70% of my work isn't focus stacked, because you can be quite productive when you're not going around setting up the tripod and focus stacking for every shot. If the conditions allow you to be handheld, getting single exposure images, then you can just take a lot more photos. And so that kind of higher volume then means that all of these would be single exposures. That's probably my favorite from the gallery, actually.
I think that's my favorite too. It's just beautiful. Absolutely mesmerizing.
Yeah, thank you. I've the last kind of year or two, maybe, I've been quite actively seeking out like chaos and trying to work with that, and not being afraid of chaos, but then trying to organize it at the same time. Like I think it's kind of been a stepping process of learning how to simplify. I think that kind of comes first, and then learning how to work with chaos after that, because you still need to be able to convey a single idea within a chaotic image, but it can maybe be visually chaotic, but still clear and concise. So having that concise image that still has an organized chaos to it is, I think, kind of that thing that I've been trying to really challenge myself with. And that failing upwards thing, right? I'm trying to not sort of lean on crutches of, nice minimal styles that, a wide angle banger or whatever it might be.
A single frozen tree in a beautiful landscape always looks beautiful. I mean, not always, but with your work, I'm sure you could make every one of those look great. Whereas this looks like it's got an intentional direction, like it flows from left to right.
I found that
too. It's draining across the right of the image because of the direction of the branches. And I'm assuming that if you had altered your frame a little bit, then maybe it would look more chaotic because there wouldn't be that direction.
Yeah, and I think these trees were all around the place, but sort of noting that central tree, which has that sort of fanning, twisting look to it, really provided the bulk of that structure. And then there was that one on the bottom left, which kind of points in. Could have been detrimental because it was like quite a big, heavy left, cutting off the bottom. It could have been like something that just totally cut off the bottom of the frame, but trying to work with that in a way that complemented it rather than being detrimental. And so that's another one of those things where the inspiration is like Hans Strand is one of my I keep knocking my mic. Hans Strand, one of my biggest sort of inspirations at the moment, and he's a master. He's been doing it for years and years and years. Is from Sweden, I think. And just one of the best at like harnessing chaos into something that just works. And you're like, how does this work? But it just does. And so that kind of thing, like who I look up to photographically shifts a lot, and then that tends to like make a little bit of an appearance in what kind of work I'm producing too, because it influences how I'm enjoying and interacting with nature in a visual sense. So stuff like this is one of the ones I'm more proud of from the shoot, because it works with those chaotic elements and tries to bring it into something that still looks cohesive, even though there's so much going on.
Yeah, I know. I think you nailed it for sure. Question for you. How do you cope with not letting or preventing your gear from freezing when you're in some of these locations? Do you have some tips for people on the best way to care for your gear when it's clearly, below freezing?
I don't think it was quite cold enough for like the gear to like freeze. Like I don't think it was the kind of northern Canada or Greenland type thing where it might be like -20 and it's going to freeze. So what I did have was one of my lenses kind of fogging up a bit because we'd been snowed on or rained on snowed on at various times, which had gotten wet, and then I put it back in my bag kind of wet without drying it off properly, and then that kind of then condensates and gets into it and stuff. So without drying it off properly. And then when the sun kind of slightly came out at times, and then that slight change in temperature, that just meant that my lenses kind of went in and out of being a little fogged up. So keeping a gear dry is one of the biggest things, like in the Australian environment where freezing is less of an issue, but getting wet is very easy to happen. If it does get wet, it's fine. The camera's going to survive, but drying it off as quickly as you can, and maybe drying it off before you then like zoom the lens back out and bring that moisture into the lens, like if it catches on the bit that's extended, and then you zoom it back in and then it goes inside. So trying to do that, which I'm not very good at doing, I'm not very diligent with. But I find that the fogging up is probably one of the easiest things to happen in areas that I shoot in, like Tasmania and Kosciuszko and the snow and all of that kind of stuff with very wet, changing temperatures. So just trying to keep having a cloth, like a microfiber cloth that sits over the top of it, and something I've ordered and is on its way is actually like silica gel packets that you can just like sit in your bag and stuff, and tries to absorb moisture.
Smart.
That kind of thing. But besides that, I'm pretty rough and tumble with my gear. I don't coddle it.
Well, it's a tool. It has to be up for it to work.
Shall we look at just a few? I know we're 2 hours in, so I'm mindful of your time. We don't want to keep you all day.
No, I'm relaxed. I'm fine. Yeah, there's no rush from me.
Okay, perfect. Because then there's one other subject I want to talk about after we have a look at a few more images. But we won't keep you too long. I just wanted to bring up a couple that grabbed my eye and just get some quick thoughts on them from you. This is pretty cool. Tell us. Explain this photo, please.
So this is the Dolomites. So I got over there February last year. Not intentionally, originally as a photography trip. I was doing one of my brothers lives in London, and so we had a little the guys of the family kind of went over and caught up with him, and we went skiing in the Dolomites, which was really cool. And so while I was over there, I was like, I'll extend this into a trip, because what a waste would it be if when I first got into photography as like a 14, 15-year-old, the Dolomites just really captured my imagination, just because they seem so whimsical and otherworldly and dramatic. And so getting there at winter was an interesting like first experience of the area, because I don't know the area, and then you're quite limited with what you can access and what that you can access as well, when most of it is limited to snowshoeing or chairlifts. So it meant we did a little bit more roadside stuff than I usually would on a trip, but then there were a couple of spots where we hiked in and did an overnight camp. Overnight camping is technically illegal in the Dolomites, but what they allow you to do is make up if you have to camp, and it's, you're allowed to, it's kind of like a rule of thumb that if you're out of sight and you're only doing it for one night, then it's kind of okay, because you're allowed to like emergency camp or whatever. And so as long as you're not in the way of full tourism and you're not camping there for multiple days on end, it's fine, which is how most people are doing it over there whenever you see the wilderness stuff in the Dolomites. And so we snowshoed in very iconic stone towers here, this mountain, the Tre Cime de Lavaredo. and which is the Three Towers. So very, very dramatic spot. So we snowshoed in here and camped overnight, and the snow, like we got a big dump of snow like kind of halfway through the trip, just as I was starting the photography portion of the trip. But then it just didn't really snow again after that. So it was really good at the start, and then the photography kind of gradually got harder throughout as the snow kind of packed and melted and got footprints in it and everything. So this was a few days after the snow dump had happened. But thankfully there was still some nice like sastrugi that was happening, like you can see on the right there. But there wasn't much sort of foreground elements to work with, which is why I chose these two foreground sort of rocks here. Because they kind of blocked our tents that were further down, as well as just providing what would otherwise just be plain snow as my foreground. But yeah, I was hoping for, I mean, you can see all the high cloud around in the sky. So I was hoping for a really nice high cloud sort of sunset, but it just fizzled out. So nothing really interesting happened, which I was a bit disappointed by, because I was like, oh, well, I found this comp and we got out here. So I pulled out photo pills and just was like, I wonder what the moon's going to do later on tonight. And yeah, lo and behold, I think at about 2 a.m. it was going to be setting to the right over here. So I was like, oh, okay, this might be something to work with here. And so yeah, got up out of my tent a few hours later, snowshoed back up, knew exactly where to set up my tripod, so I set that up, and yeah, it's just magic, especially when you have the moon shining through high cloud. Always looks so nice because it just softens it and really helps with this lovely glow. It was a really technically challenging shot to create because, you know, this is a near far composition at night. So it required, you know, focus stacking at f3.5 or something like that. And then doing an aggressive like exposure blend for the moon, because again, when you're shooting at high ISOs, your dynamic range is reduced, and then you're shooting into this, you know, big ball of light in total darkness. And so, yeah, I think focus stacking blind because it was too dark for me to autofocus. And then, yeah, doing this like really challenging blend, both for the editing as well. Getting that blend sort of sorted for the exposure blend for the moon, because I hate big balls of overexposed, like clipped. I like it to get down to the tiniest little pinpoint that I can for both, whether it is the sun or the moon. So yeah, technically challenging, and then a bit of AI noise reduction and different techniques for both the land and the sky, because the AI noise reduction works well for the land, but doesn't work well with stars or anything like that. So I had to do different techniques for different parts of the image and all of that. So very technical shot, but I'm really happy that I put in the effort because, yeah, it was one of my favorite shots from the trip for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and rightly so. It is pure sorcery. And I come back again, Ben, to one of the comments I made at the very top of this show, that the experience that you've just described to us to make this shot happen is just as important as the finished product. You know, the whimsy involved in getting out of your tent in the middle of the night and, you know, snowshoeing up a mountain to find the right spot, and then going through technical process, as you said, blind. It's just phenomenal what you've been able to achieve. So, you know, well done. That's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, great shot. And it's funny too, because you said the Dolomites were so, I think the word you used was whimsical, but and otherworldly. And it's like, that's exactly what this shot shows. It's almost like this could be it's like a sci-fi movie. Like it's sort of like, you know, another planet. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right,
so I don't know, whereabouts are the Dolomites located? Is that in Italy?
Yeah, northern Italy. Yeah.
Okay.
Because as I mean, like it was an interesting experience being there because like I'm used to really immersive landscapes where like it's totally wild, whereas over there, because it's like they get like 2 million people through there in winter alone.
What?
I think, for like the ski tourism and stuff. So it's very like it's quite built up. So you can drive in summer. You can drive right to the base of that mountain. It's hard to look around and not see a chairlift somewhere. So that like at times kind of took me out of it. I was like, oh, this is not what I'm used to. Like I'm not used to seeing chairlifts in the distance, or having roads, or, you know, light pollution from this town or whatever. And so, and there were times where I was like, I miss Tassie. Ironically, you know, there's incredible mountain range that I'm sitting in, but it did make me grateful for the swathes of untouched wilderness that we have over here. Whereas, especially some of these mountainous areas in Europe, like it's hard to avoid the touch of man, I think. Which it was interesting to sort of see that dynamic play out and how I was experiencing the landscape. But nonetheless, an incredible place to visit and photograph. It's just the mountains are incredible.
Was it Luke Sharkey who loved photographing Tasmania so much that he moved there?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was 2017 that he moved down there. He was in Sydney before that.
Yeah, lovely story. Just you know the way that a place can do that to you. You know, make you just pick up everything and move. It's
just move.
Yeah.
Lucinda says all I think of when someone says Dolomites is the Commonwealth Bank accounts at school. That's right.
Yes.
The great Australian scam to get kids into their banking system early. And that was, of course, spelt Dollarmites, like the Aussie.
But they did have the best money boxes, the best tin money boxes, I must say.
Yeah. It was very well played, Commonwealth Bank. You got us.
Thanks for that blast from the past, Lucinda.
What was I going to say? All right. A few other... Oh, that's right. So you mentioned Photo Pills. I just want to say to anyone that if you don't have an app like Photo Pills, so either Photo Pills or I think the older one was the Photographer's Ephemeris or something like that. But I think Photo Pills is probably the best all-rounder. You mentioned it. It gives you tons of information, but one of the best things it can do is it gives you augmented reality of the night sky, the moon. We use it all the time for the sun. We're even using it. We use it all the time. We were using it just a couple of days ago for action photography because they want a big group shot. And we're like, all right. And of course, they set up the giant banner and the group shot stuff so that everyone would be staring directly into the low morning sun. So anyway, so we had to change that. And Photo Pills allows you to basically stand there with your phone, see where the sun's going to track through the day, or the moon, or the night sky and the Milky Way, or whatever. And I think it's what's it like $10 or $20 or something like that.
So maybe I think when I bought it was like $14, something like that.
Okay,
one-time purchase.
One-time purchase, exactly.
Yeah.
They're not like, you're on the drip forever. Sorry, if you like it. So I would highly recommend checking out that app if you haven't got something like that already that helps you figure out what's going to happen with the sun, the moon, the stars, and everything. Plus, it's got heaps of other little tools built into it as well.
Like, it's pretty handy. Just a little quick cheeky comment from Yelena. I'm 34 and my Combank app tells me I've been a user of Commonwealth Bank for 30 years. So they've got you for life now.
I think they actually kind of got in trouble for it a little while ago. Like, hey, you can't really hook kids into your banking system. Like, that's not really. Anyway, moving on.
Sorry,
because who knows? One day they might sponsor the pod. I've been not.
Yeah.
On them.
We love you, Commonwealth Bank.
Yeah. Give us some money. I really like this image. This is really cool. Is it called the Vault? The Vault? No.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
The Vault. Yeah. It's just so dark and moody. I love it.
Yeah, it's lovely. Tell us about this shot.
Yeah. So this was what was it? I think it was like the second day of a Tarkine workshop with Paul Holan last year. So this was after sunrise. We'd kind of driven up to this vantage point, and it was one of those times where the sun gets that sort of dappled light through the clouds. And I really love working with when you've got direct light, working with underexposure, because it produces the most bizarre looking abstract effects, especially with water and like anything that like is translucent. Water, clouds, foliage. And so I really liked the way that it kind of had this, at this particular point, this pattern on the water. And then there was this tiny little gap where the clouds weren't sitting between the water and the clouds, which is why I called it the vault. It's reference to like biblical creation, sort of Bible verses. And then up above that, you've got the clouds, like sort of that separation between sky and sea. It's a pretty different photo for me, but I love this kind of thing. And this is the kind of shot where like I can point out direct influence from people like TJ Thorne. This is very much in his sort of style of that minimal, like a simple color palette, bit sort of working with harsh light and underexposure and that kind of thing. It's one of my favorite sort of abstract, detailed, intimate sort of landscapes as well. So I'm glad you picked that one out, actually.
It caught me as soon as I was having a look through. It grabbed me. That's the sort of thing I would love to have printed on my wall. It's just it draws you in. Love it.
It's actually full color as well. It's not black and white conversion.
Is it? I can see a
Wow.
tiny tinge of blue like on my screen, but I actually, I kind of.
So like again, when you're working with really, really dark direct light and you underexpose for the highlights enough, it pretty much converts to monochrome in camera. So like the photo is pretty much black and white. Straight out of camera, even though I was working in full color. And then I think I just gave it a slight blue tinge in processing, so just slightly cooled down the white balance because I prefer that sort of silver tone look. But yeah, there's no black and white conversion here at all.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. I'd love to, like, this is what's hard. I can only imagine what these images look like in full res or printed or whatever, because obviously this is, it's had to go on a website, which you can't put enormous photos on a website and stuff. So it's like, I bet that they all just look. Anyway, now, before I get to our final topic I wanted to ask you about, are there any other images you think we should check out? I could look through these all day. There's tons. I had quite a few more that I wanted to bring up, but is there any that you would like to show us?
Let me have a think. I mean, that top left one right there, I think it was the photo that we used for the promotion.
Yeah, it was.
My favorite like grand landscape photo I've taken.
It's amazing.
And also recently got a highly commended in the NLPA, which Matt mentioned earlier, which was a nice little inclusion. But yeah, I think like one of my other influences would be, Peter Dombrovskis, the classic iconic Tasmanian landscape photographer, who just really shaped the Tasmanian style, and I think is truly one of the greatest landscape photographers to have ever done it. And I think there'd be many around the world who would agree with me. And, there are people today who are considered some of the best, like Joe Cornish over in the UK, who has several YouTube videos going through various books of Peter Dombrovskis' work, citing him, like, and describing how much he loves his work and draws inspiration from him. So he, did sort of medium large format 4x5 film decades ago into the depths of Tasmania's wilderness, and just was so ahead of his time, and it's got many images today that absolutely hold up and outstrip what people are producing today with digital cameras and far more knowledge. And so I was in this area and I felt like I just kind of stepped into one of his photos. Like it was a really beautiful, I hadn't seen this composition before. So as I was sort of hiking through, I found these really nice patches of fagus, which still hadn't been stripped off their branches yet. And I just kind of fine tuned this composition for like an hour and a half and waited for the light, and was eventually ready for this little tendril of mist to drift through that valley in the background there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I loved that just big rectangular boulder on the left. There's something about it just drew me in. And so it's not a typical like composition, like in terms of how it's framed up, but it just is another one of those ones where I was trying to push myself a little bit in terms of like breaking some, it doesn't have your classic sort of, 3 leading lines coming in from your corners or whatever it might be, or a particular mountain peak in the background. Like you kind of get bounced around the photo, but it still works. And so, I'm probably one of the photos that I'm most proud of in my gallery, as like a grand landscape, because it's grand, but it also feels intimate at the same time. Like it doesn't feel like it's throwing conditions in your face. And so, it's probably one of my favorite photos I've taken, I think.
Just some high praise here from Matt. One of the most... Sorry.
Go on, Greg.
I was going to say, one of the most interestingly composed images of a Tasmanian grand landscape, in my opinion, rightly in consideration for the top spot in NLPA. So it's high praise indeed.
Thank you, Matt.
Also, while we're here, Lisa had to go. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for leading us to Ben's work. Because I'm sad to say I hadn't really come across your work much, but I'm kind of a hermit. I don't go on the socials or anything. So it kind of, unless someone shows me things, I often don't get exposed to people's work that much. So I'm really glad that we got the head.
I think Lisa mentioned your upcoming episode about 4 times while we're in Bright having a chat. She's pretty excited. You're really excited to have you on, and she felt really proud that she'd been the one to recommend you, and that obviously we wanted to spend some time talking to you. So that's great.
No, I'm glad she was able to join. She mentioned that she might not have been able to jump into the episode. So Yeah, she's probably jumped out now, but yeah. Thanks, Lisa.
Not many people have the amount of time that Justin and I have just to sit around talking all day. So, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. I did want to quickly ask, so you basically, we sort of glossed over this a little bit, but basically you're in high school, then you were doing this, you went on a trip, you met Luke Sharkey, who's a professional landscape photographer. He's doing this thing. And that was about the time that you were like, all right, I'm not going to go get a real job. I'm going to be a professional landscape photographer. What did your parents, careers person at school, all of that sort of what did they say when you were like, yeah, I'm going to make money taking landscape photos? How did that go?
Yeah, actually, this is a kind of a story in and of itself as well. So 2019, it was my first year out of high school. So I was just kind of doing some like hospitality work to earn some money and that kind of thing, and shooting whenever I could. And so I had in high school, like from like school, gotten early acceptance into National Art School here in Sydney. Wow. So I was one of the top applicants for that year. So I got into that, but then I was like, I think I'll just defer for a year and do photography stuff and make sure I still want to do it in a year's time. And decided I didn't want to do it. So I pulled out of that. And then I enrolled into UTS photography course as well, University of Technology, Sydney. Enrolled into that. After my sort of year off, I made it 2 hours into orientation day and decided it wasn't for me.
What? So why was that?
O week is like the best week of university.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
day
weird.
Day one should be.
It was like, I don't know. I was like sitting in this auditorium, and there's this guy who's like trying to be like talking like he's trying to be a WWE announcer, but he's like 60, and it was like trying to hype up the kids and stuff. It's like, it just feels patronizing. And he's like, yeah, please welcome. He's like gripping the podium. And it's like, please welcome up this person. And this lady just comes up and just like blank, like the most boring, like it's just like, this just feels weird. This is not the environment for me. Wow. And like, I was already kind of like, I know how to take photos at this point. So I was like, at the most, like it might be good for like industry connections or whatever. But I kind of just quickly realized, no, what I'm going to be doing is like studio lighting and relearning what I've already learned and maybe figuring out how to do commercial client stuff or whatever. And I was like, that's not what I want to do with photography. I don't need someone to reteach me how to do it. And I don't want to learn how to set up a 3-light photo just because that's not what I'm interested in. And so, and I don't need to spend $15,000 a year doing it either. Exactly. And so it was like, I just didn't want the Hextet. And I was like, I think I can do this myself. And so I actually walked out of that, went straight to George's Cameras without a resume and was like, hey, I'd like to work here. Could I like talk to someone about that? I knew someone that worked there. I was like, oh, I know this guy. They gave me an interview on the spot, and then I was working there a week later, which was kind of,
yes,
it felt like just a real like sort of fate moment where I was like, yeah, this is meant to happen.
But I think also, Ben, we need to take into account that, you know, at this time you were 19 and you had a very clear idea of who and what you wanted to be. You know, when I was your age, I was just running around bumping into stuff. Like I had no idea what I wanted to be, mostly because of poor career guidance from high school. But, you know, full credit to you that at the age of 19, you're like, nah, actually, this is the direction that I definitely want to take it. And I think, you know, you should take a lot of pride in setting a course
and walking in and asking for an interview. That is 100%. Like if anyone's listening to this, if you're young and you're like, I want to go and get a job somewhere, don't just sit around waiting for something to pop up on Seek.
Show up.
Walk in, especially if it's a customer facing role or something like that. Even if it's not, don't worry about it. But like I worked in the car industry for a little while. And if people walked in and asked to
I don't think washing cars counts as car industry.
Funny, that was no shit. That was my first job. All school holidays, I hosed and chamoised 300 cars a day. All school holidays when I was like 16.
Wow.
And it was awesome. I had a great time. Anyway, but yeah, if someone walked in and even if they didn't have a position, if someone walked in and asked if they could talk to someone about getting a job, they got to sit down usually on the spot if the manager was free, because it means they were confident enough to just come and ask the question. And they just want someone that's confident enough to walk up to someone and say, hey, do you need help or what? You know, like, so that's that's epic. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. And I mean, I had been in and handed in my resume there before because I was like, it would be cool to work here. But I think it was just a combination of elements that just meant it worked. And we, meant, giving things a crack a few times is important too.
Well, I
so
think
I worked
that just means that you took charge of your own destiny.
Yeah.
Rather than wait for someone to hand you an opportunity, you just went, oh, stuff this. I want to be a photographer. I'm going to work in a camera store because that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's great.
And so, and then I worked there throughout 2020. Obviously, I had about a month or two off with COVID, obviously, but then they were able to sort of bring us back into the store, and I worked mostly in like a sort of stock receiving and sending out orders role. So that was fun, and got to sort of replace some gear for less than I would have had to otherwise, which was good.
Nice.
But then I kind of was like, okay, I don't think I can stagnate here. I need to. It'd be so easy to just stay here for years as a safe option. It's like, it's kind of photography adjacent. Like it's a store, but I'm still actually working in hospitality. And so I did, that year I did like a little weekend away with another Sydney photographer called Jose Luis Cantabrana Garcia. It's his full name. I don't know if he likes to be just called Jose.
I'm
Spanish.
I'm gonna Google it. Yeah, Jose Luis.
Jose Cantabrana should get you part of it.
Yeah,
he's a great photographer too. So we did a little weekend away with him, and he does real estate and architecture photography as well. And I was like, do you reckon you'd be able to give me an in? I just want to work in any photography. And he was like, yeah. So he introduced me to one of the people that he worked for, and then 2021 came around, and like they trained me up, and I was working in real estate photography. So that was my first kind of full time like doing photography as work, sort of thing. I just want
to jump in there. That email I mentioned earlier, where I knew your name from somewhere, it was from George's. I just had a quick squeeze at the email. It was 2021, and you were doing a real estate shoot, and Lee and I were creating content, and like C.R. Kennedy were involved, and a whole bunch of people. Yeah,
right. Okay, that's fun. World.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off. Sorry, I was too excited.
That's all right. So 2021 I was doing that, and then 2021 I also ran my first like workshop as well, which is just like a little weekend down away in Kiama, and that was kind of my first like in with the workshop stuff. It was my first sort of experience with that. And I barely made any money from it, and I'd messed a couple of things up, and I realized I'm not a good enough cook to be cooking for the clients and all that kind of thing. So like those sort of early mistakes that you learn very quickly, and like during COVID as well, I'd sort of been able to use that chance to build up like my website and try and, offer editing tutorials and that kind of thing. So, while I wasn't really able to go out and shoot in that period, I realized that I was very fortunate in that I was, because I was young, I was still living at home with my parents, so I didn't have rent to pay or anything like that. So I was quite lucky through COVID in that, like, I did lose work, but it wasn't a big deal for me because just of the position I was in. So because I was able to make the most of that, I then could sort of come back into being out of lockdown and stuff, and being able to, having slightly sort of started to position myself as someone who did like photography education and that kind of thing. And so like workshops was always the dream, like being able to do, go in the field and take people around to these beautiful areas was like, when I was like 16, 17, I was looking at people doing that. I was like, oh man, how good would that be? So I feel very grateful and blessed to be able to do that today. And, to have people that are willing to join me in some of these far-fetched places and, come along and trust me with them and, want to learn from me. So it's, I'm very, very grateful for what I'm able to do. And then I just balance it out with, the real estate and other property photography when I'm back on trips, because renting in Sydney is, it's not cheap. And I'm getting married next year as well, and weddings aren't cheap either.
Congratulations.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You're going to have to find an epic wedding photographer too.
I know.
We did. We found a guy that I'm absolutely stoked on. So
who'd you pick?
We both are. There's a guy called Oliver Hartley. He's been in like Vogue weddings and stuff, but he was
Should we get him on the
within
podcast?
our budget. I mean, he's a lovely guy. I think he likes a bit of landscape stuff as well.
Nice.
So he knew some of the guys that I know with landscape stuff. But he's an amazing wedding photographer. He's absolutely excellent. He does digital and film. Like we're paying a little extra to have him do a few film rolls.
Yeah, nice.
So no, it was an awesome find. We were like super stoked with him. Yeah,
that's so cool.
He's killing it. Check him out. Oh, that's.
And
that's
are
awesome.
you getting married at an epic location as well, or you kind of
we got
around?
the two things we splurged on was the venue and photographer, and then we're sort of DIYing everything else.
Then we're making our own suits and wedding dresses.
That's God. Yeah,
not quite to that degree, but we are like my fiance's get like doing own flowers. She's going to do her own hair and makeup, all of that kind of thing.
Nice.
Like no extravagant honeymoon or anything like that. So,
but you'll have your photos forever. So
exactly.
Well played. Very well played.
So that'll be epic.
Yeah, so I just do that stuff to help just the steady sort of work come through, and sort of working towards a point where I can do less and less of it with digital sort of like this mentor program that I've got going now, all that kind of thing. More of that will mean eventually I hopefully could do full-time landscapes, but honestly I'm pretty happy with the blend regardless, because getting to shoot some nice houses is always fun too, especially for like interior stylists and all that kind of thing. It's like it's the same but different. Like it's still tripod, multiple exposure bracketing, similar sort of framing approaches, but it's also very different at the same time. And so it's kind of like a slightly different creative outlet, keeps it fresh.
Just on the workshops quickly, if anyone is interested, the other thing I think I saw on your website, maybe it's not available anymore, was bespoke workshop experiences from like 1 day one-on-one through to potentially like build your own workshop and your own group, adding extra people. So reach out if there's something that you want to learn, or you're in the area, or even potentially a different area. I assume that's a possibility. Like me and 3 photographers could be like, could you take us here this time of year or whatever? So even just a one-on-one 1 day experience. So I love that that's an option too.
Yeah, I got to do a really fun one a couple of years ago. I think it was late 2023. Went around with someone in Tassie for like 6 days. And that was awesome, because we basically just had like a rough idea, but then just chased conditions. And, because Tassie's so small, there was one point where the conditions weren't working out in the northeast. And so we went totally, one day went down to the southwest and chased rainforest conditions down there instead. And so that kind of thing, I love that kind of thing. And so, and something I want to work on is kind of like formulated sort of formats that people can just book on that are just, as a one-to-one or two, like small group tailored workshop. But like here's what we could do. And so like it's just a matter of booking it in at that point.
And then just figure out a date that works with them, rather than having these like, well, I'm doing in October 2026, I've got this one thing. It's more like, look, there's we can do this one overnighter in this location. Let's figure out when it works for you or whatever. That's very cool. I love that. All right, should we finish off with a final question, the most important question of the whole podcast?
Everyone's waiting for it. So I've heard.
If it was the end of the world, and now I know you try and keep any human elements out of your frames, but let's say it's a zombie apocalypse or something like that, and you had to run for your life, take out into the Scottish Highlands or something, and you could only take one camera and one lens with you to document the landscapes during the end of the world.
Because that would be your first priority.
Obviously.
Clearly.
Clearly, that'd be the most important thing. What's your like one camera and one lens if that's all you had?
That's very easy. Like, so Z7 II and the 24-120.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I could maybe do like a 24-200, like super zoom. I could do that, but then, I mean, the quality, like, it's pretty good, but I mean, I love the 24-120. Like, it's super sharp. The range is awesome. 45 megapixels is enough resolution to be able to DX crop and get to about 200 mil close equivalent, and still have over 20 megapixels of resolution. So that'd be my sort of instant go-to for that. And 24 is still pretty wide. 120 is, decently telephoto. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
long enough
that's a
so the
great
zombies
answer.
don't get too close. Really, that's the
Yeah.
trick. If all you're rocking is a 14mm prime, well, it's going to be a very short photo session. But
David Mascaris is mic drop. Or mic, but mic drop. Yeah, that's a good mic drop, like 24 to 120. It's funny. I actually asked. I call him Nikon Ross because I can't remember what Ross's last name, but Ross from Nikon. I don't know if you ever met Ross. He's from the Pro division.
No, I don't think
Works
I have.
with Julie a lot. So Nikon Ross, he's got like beautiful long hair. So he's up at the Bright Festival of Photography, and I was asking him like, what's the most underrated Nikon lens that because people always come up for the crowd pleasers when they're asking to borrow lenses and stuff like that. And I said, what's the most underrated Nikon lens? And he goes, I don't know if it's underrated, but it's the 24 to 120 f4. He's like, it's just great. It's just a great lens. Slap it on.
It's just it's a workhorse.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolute workhorse. Like you can't go to like say like f16 as easily as you could if you were on like the 24 to 70. Obviously, like with that sort of amount of range, you got to be a little bit more particular with the aperture. But like within anything that's like a reasonable aperture, like f6 to f14, you got a super sharp photo, and that kind of range is just amazing. So that's a pretty easy decision for me there.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. Good answer.
Very nice indeed. Well, I think on that note, we might wrap, boss. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Where's the natural place to stop?
Where should people track you down? What do you want to do?
So I'm in my website there, just www.benmazefineart.com. That's BenmazeFineart.com. Fun fact, that name came from when I was like 18 and still like doing drawings and paintings and stuff. So I was like, I wonder if I label it as this, people might be able to commission me for stuff when I'm still doing paintings and drawings. And then it very quickly became just photography, and it just sort of stuck because I kind of shoot in a slightly fine art photography style. So that's where that name came from, and it's just kind of stuck from there. BenmazeFineart.com. On Instagram, I'm just benjamin.maze. My last name is sort of unique enough, I think, that you should be able to find me all right. And Facebook, Ben Maze Fine Art. But Instagram and my website is probably the best place for it. I'm also in there's a if anyone's into Discord, there's a Landscape Photographers Worldwide Discord server. It's got probably like 1,500 people in there now. I helped start that back in COVID. I'm not an admin anymore, but I'm sometimes you can find me chatting away in there with other people. Matt Palmer's in there. There's heaps of international people in there, some pretty big names. It's a pretty cool server. So if you know the platform Discord and you want to chat with other people about all matter of things landscape photography, then jump into the Landscape Photographers Worldwide Discord server.
I have so much trouble with Discord. All of my kids are gamers. I'm a gamer too, but I don't use PC, and I can't work it out. It just baffles me. Have you tried to use it, Justin?
No, not really.
Well, then why are you laughing at me?
Because it's funny. Because
I'm old.
Like, I don't know how to use it. Meanwhile, you're sitting in a gamer's chair with a blue background. You look like you're about to start streaming. Maybe on Twitch.
It's all about acting confident.
All right. I think that's probably it. We should let you get back to work. We probably should mention, I don't know if we mentioned it all, Lucky Straps sponsor of the show.
I was just about to do that.
Yeah, you were about to do it. So we I think we're both just tired from beef.
I think we've had a big, and we're going to talk more about that maybe Monday night. I think next week we'll have a bit of an unpacking party. But this has been the Camera Life podcast, proudly brought to you by Lucky Straps. Head to luckystraps.com. We make premium Aussie-made, handmade leather camera straps. And we've just spent a weekend in Bright, and we've worked out that our straps fit every single camera that came up and said, I'd like to try a strap. Did you have any that? No,
that's not true. Canon stupidly make a couple of tiny slots on their cameras on like
like half size.
R50.
R6?
No, the R6 is fine. There's a couple of narrow slots. Anyway, don't worry about that.
I stand corrected.
The R100 doesn't fit either.
Oh, who wants one of them?
But other than that, everything else.
Everything else. And so head over there. We've got a whole bunch of different styles. Neck. That's a new word I just made up. Neck, shoulder, and wrist straps. But we are the Camera Life podcast. We're twice a week, always live, because we love you, the community, to get involved. Jump in the chat, ask us questions, ask questions of our guests. Our two shows are every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time at the moment. And we also have a random photography show every Monday evening, 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. But if you give us a like for today's episode, it certainly helps a lot. And if you subscribe, hit the bell notification, because then you'll get notifications in your time zone. So you can effectively plan, when to skip work and when to watch our podcast.
Yeah, exactly. When to bring headphones to work. All right. Well, thank you very much, Ben. Yeah. We'll bring up some comments during our awesome outro music, which is the same as the intro music, the worst ever AI song.
That's growing on me.
I can't say it's going on the playlist, but it was cool to hear it.
That's very nice.
LTK Photo, great podcast as always. I enjoyed listening and seeing all the amazing work. It was amazing work.
Yeah.
Stuart Lyle, thanks, Ben. Really keen to check out more of your work. And yes, thanks, Rodney. Thanks, Lucinda, for hanging out. Yelena, Lisa Leach, she's gone, but she's here. Matt Palmer, David Dare Parker, legend, absolute legend. Roy Bixby, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Nick Fletcher. We'll see you guys on the next one.
See you, everybody.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
See ya.